All set? Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the May 7th, 2013 Planning Board meeting, which is being recorded by our director and LCAT. At this time, I'd like to ask if there's anybody recording, and if so, your name and organization. All right, moving forward, we have the public hearing as far as the Brown property and Deb Bronski. If you'd like to come up and sit in our, and Mr. Smith as well, please.
Shall I read the notice?
Yes, please.
Take the comfortable chair.
All right, we've got one notice to read, and then we can proceed.
The Planning Board of the Town of East Long Meadow will hold a public hearing on May 7th, 2013 at 6 p.m. in the Town Hall Meeting Room, 60 Center Square, East Long Meadow, Massachusetts. Sorry. On an application for a site plan review submitted by the Board of Selectmen of the Town of East Long Meadow for property located at Hamden Road to allow community gardens with proposed garden plot quads to be subdivided for individual use, parking for said use, new water lines and sanitary Sanican facilities, and show and raised bed gardens. Information relating to this application is on file with the Planning Board and available for review by the public. For the board, Ralph Page, clerk.
Okay. The floor is yours.
Do you want to read
Yep.
the police report first?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's
Got ahead of
read-
myself.
Why don't we read the police report?
Yeah, let's get all this stuff into the record so I can. My voice is going because of my allergies, so I apologize.
It's that time of year.
From Richard Bates. Robin, there is the possibility of posting the school zone with a speed limit, but it may entail conducting a speed count on Hamden Road. Mountain View School does not fit the criteria on the Hamden Road side only. A review of this issue will be possible to complete in time for the meeting on Tuesday. Massachusetts amendments to the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. 2003 edition defines a school zone as a school zone as referred to in Chapter 90. Section 17 shall only be construed to be that section of a way which abuts the grounds of a school and is posted and marked in accordance with these department standards indicate the applicability of the statutory speed limits of 20 miles an hour for all vehicles in accordance with the terms of the permit for the zone. It further indicates in Section 7G official standards for school zones under 7G2 warrants for school zones the following minimum warrants for the establishment of the school zone. The school property abuts the public right-of-way within the limits of the proposed zone area. School children have direct access to the street or roadway from the school property. The zone must contain a marked crosswalk. The school must involve one or more grades below grade 9. It goes on to state that if the school zone is not warranted if, 1, when children are not required to cross the street on foot within the limits of the proposed school zone area and sidewalks are provided. 2, where abutting school property is fenced or the crosswalk has been signalized, except in the cases where investigation shows there is no conflict between the signal indication and the school zone speed limit sign. Section 7G further indicates that any variance from the requirements of these standards without the written approval of the department shall constitute the establishment of a non-standard school zone and shall render the provisions of Chapter 90, Section 17 inapplicable as they refer to the speed of vehicles in speed zones. And the particulars of conducting a speed count can be found at, and there's a website cited, Sergeant Richard Bates. That's it.
Okay. I'll let you speak, and then we'll bring it back to the board.
Okay, great. So obviously, we've had several conversations, and I'm here on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, having met with the folks from the Friends of the Brown with interest in creating a garden at the Brown property. We are very excited about the potential. We've submitted plans thanks to this very generous young man, and met with you and met with all of the powers that be, and would like to be here to grant your permission to move forward with the project and answer any questions that you might have.
All right, I know we did have a roundtable meeting, and police, fire, DPW, myself, Deb Bronski were there, Mr. Smith was there, and a lot of the issues that needed to be addressed were addressed. And as far as who's going to pay for what was addressed. And I know we had a hung up as far as the traffic study, but I think we're going to do that as a kind of wait and see as far as the traffic count and what's going to, problems, what may arise. I think DPW was okay as far as safety issues. I know there's some water issues as well, who's going to pay for what, but I think those are questions have all been answered. The money's being allocated by CPC, which is agreed upon at town meeting. So I think those questions have been answered. I know there were some questions about signs, as far as the handicap signs, and I think there was a question about a sign going to the property.
Yes,
And I believe there's leftover money in the CPC funds to in fact pay for those.
yes,
All right.
absolutely.
Now, is there anything that I missed, or did I think that was everything that we had touched on at the meeting?
Yeah, there was a few small changes to the site plan in
Yep.
terms of taking off the storage shed, taking off the sand can, and adding some handicap spots off
Right.
the road up closer to the
Right.
garden so that they didn't have such a long walk, which we added to the plan and removed from the plan. And
Okay.
other than that, I think it was all approved by everybody.
Okay. Any questions by the other board members as far as this plan goes?
The plan seems pretty complete. It shows where the gardens are going to be located, shows the roadway. I don't have any questions.
How far away from the street is the quad four?
It's, I think it's about 50 feet or so. It's at least 50 feet.
Yeah, one is just 40 feet, so. Edge of the property line or edge of the road?
That's the edge of the property line, so
Okay,
it's
so
probably off the edge of the road.
probably
It's
60,
65
70
feet, 70
Yeah.
feet, yeah.
And that will be the closest point.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and the other thing too, the sign that we're proposing as far as explaining where this is, where's that gonna go in relationship to this?
There's already an existing
It's already existing
pole.
sign pole there.
Okay, did Wizard talk about sign on somebody's farther down, or did I miss that? Okay,
Not
maybe
that
I-
I'm aware.
Not that
All right, I
I
thought there
was
was-
aware.
No, we were going to use the pre-existing location
That
and
was there.
just
Yeah.
Okay.
get an approved sign, but use the same base that was there already.
Okay. Ralph?
My only question comes up in top quadrant 1. I know there's some existing trees. I mean, are those staying for now, or are we looking to?
Well, I would say that based on demand, I guess the idea was to start in quadrant 1 and 2, closer to the road, already cleared, less trees,
Two and
any
four
work that we
sections,
need.
2 and 4.
And, yeah, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, 2 and 4, and then work their way.
Yeah.
Work their way back. Most of the stuff that's in there is all scrub junk anyway, but yeah, I guess the idea is to start closer to the road with the gardens and worry about any other maintenance down the road when demand meets. I mean, I don't anticipate the demand filling all 4 quadrants
Okay.
right away, so.
Not in the next few weeks anyway.
George, anything?
Just for the record, Conservation did approve the wetland line a couple weeks ago, and it is basically off the plan here.
Okay.
It's well away from there, so that has no issues on it. I would have one request, since you're going to come up with a new sign for the place, and that would be some acknowledgement that this was purchased and improved with community preservation funds.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that we're making visible to the public the use of those funds that they've been paying into.
That's a great idea.
All right, anybody else?
As far as signage, I mean, that's going to be a separate request coming in front of us anyways at that time, where we have to view it and everything.
All right. All right, at this time, I'm going to open it up to the public. Please state your name and address, and any questions that you may have. Yes, you in first.
Allison Welk, I'm at 3 Anna Marie Lane.
Okay.
I'm directly
I'm sorry.
abutting that property that you're discussing.
Could you just say your name one more
did.
time? No, for her,
Allison.
so she can hear it.
Allison Welk.
Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
I just want to know, since I don't know what the plan looks like.
You want to come up, take a look?
Yeah, I'd like to see how close it's coming to my
Sure.
property.
Come on up. Absolutely, that's what we're here for.
Maybe close enough for some free corn.
What did you do?
No, I kind of like to maintain some
Well,
privacy.
yeah, we put a
Understood.
50-foot buffer from your rear property line.
Where's my property?
You're right here.
That's me, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And we actually put a 50-foot buffer for
Is there gonna
Yeah,
be
but
any
I'm just trying
type
to
of
get
a
that to you.
wall or anything for privacy or fencing
Just-
or anything?
No, we're just not cutting,
current-
there'll be no trees taken down, no work done within 50 feet of the property line.
So it will maintain its natural look as it is now.
Mhm.
Within 50 feet, nothing will be touched.
Okay. I'm just concerned about the privacy issue.
Yeah. Sure.
That's why I like that property.
Yeah, that's why we put it in there, to try to maintain the
Yeah.
privacy for other people down the line.
All right. But is there any possible plans for any like fencing or something like that if it becomes an issue?
I think that we're taking this, one step
One
at a
step at a
time.
time,
But I
right.
think, yeah, I think if it did become an issue of.
We're going to look at it a year from now, how did it go,
Okay.
how does everyone feel, and,
All right.
and take everyone's opinions into
All right.
effect to move
That's
forward.
important to me, so
Yes.
thank you.
Right, Lisa?
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, sir, you gotta,
Well, her name, though, I just
Oh.
wanted to see the plan.
you wanna come on up?
Come on up,
Come
yeah.
on up.
Would it be nice to have this with the notice,
Hmm.
a website or something, just
So that
to take a look at.
Memory
We
lane.
really need to use one here.
You know which
Really
parcel
need to use
is,
one here.
okay.
That would be mine, assuming that these are each.
Yep.
Yeah,
That
this
was
is
the
the
area.
Azaria
Yeah,
Lane.
okay.
Yeah.
So those are the gardens there, 50-foot buffer off of the fence that
Mhm.
runs there.
Yep.
And we're actually only going back, it's proposing to go back as far as an old fence line that ran right there, so.
Yeah. Just handicap and everything else. All right, so, and you're, for the moment, ignoring the blind turn to get onto that.
It was discussed
street.
at our table meeting. That was one of the
Yeah, with the-
concerns.
with the
And-
police department.
Yeah, and the idea is this is not gonna generate 1,000 cars a day, it's gonna generate a few extra cars.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a whole other question, in a suburban environment
Yeah,
like
consensus-
ours, with,
consensus
how
was,
many
let's do a-
people need,
Right.
don't have space in their
Correct.
own backyards.
It was gonna be a wait and see, let's see how it goes.
Mhm.
Kinda, I don't wanna say trial basis, but, start off slow, and if it, gets further in intensity, then we'll look at it again. They're just, someday there may be ball field, something like that, and this may have to change.
Yeah.
So
This
right
is
now,
a
we're trying to,
temporary use.
yeah, we're trying to
Yeah.
keep it simple and
Mhm.
move forward.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my only other concern, and I don't know whether or not this will be a problem or not, but is just the, making sure that it's closed at dusk and things like that.
Okay.
That it doesn't become a place where, teenagers come and hang out
That's a
and
good
drink
point.
beers and,
Yeah.
things like that.
No hops will be grown.
Can you just give her your name? Sorry, name and address, please?
And I'm at 5 N.
Thank you.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's a good point, because I do want it to be a safe
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
place. I mean,
Absolutely.
I've been there since '98, and it's important to me.
Yeah, I
Sure.
can understand that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Corey LaFlamme, 9 Anna Marie Lane. Along the safety front, those woods have taken a beating the last couple of years. Drawing more people there is a concern with the down trees and the widowmakers. We've had plenty of trees fall in our yard
Okay.
in the last couple of years, and we've taken care of them, not really thinking that it was someone else's
Okay.
job. But there's widowmakers out there. It's not a safe place to walk, which may get back to the fence idea. Walking in between Anna Marie to the existing barn area is kind of messy.
Okay, I know there is a 50-foot buffer zone. I don't know what provisions as far as, hanging trees. I mean, is that something we need to talk about the DPW as far as safety issues? Have somebody maybe have our...
I think it's more of a liability. It doesn't affect
Doesn't affect
me
you,
so
no,
much.
but it
It's
may affect
just-
us.
It's a concern that I look out my back window and see them,
Yep.
and that they've fallen into our yard. And we alerted the DPW, and they said they'd come out and just haven't
I
seen
think a lot of those are
In the back.
beyond the scope of where we're planting the gardens at least, but they,
Okay.
it does exist in the wooded area behind that fence, for sure.
All right, for...
Over snowstorm.
Yeah.
Basically.
All right,
Yeah, I
why-
think it's still in the affected area, because I'm only at 9 Anna Marie.
Okay.
Not even halfway down, and there's down trees all over,
so-
as well as them hanging up in the top, so.
At the very least, why don't we have somebody from DPW take a look? As far as safety goes, if there's any issues they think they need to be resolved, we can address
The tough part is
those.
getting equipment because it's so wet. I mean, we all have soaking wet backyards, and
Okay,
it's tough to kind of service that area with equipment, and that's what the DPW told us, but they'd have to come through our yard because they can't come in.
Which they can't.
Yeah, they
Like a
can't do
private
that.
property.
Right.
again, we'll go one step at a time, see what they say, see what we
Yeah,
can do
just
to
think
to
it's
alleviate it.
Worth noting before we bring a lot of folks to that area that
Okay.
if you want to make it a family place, then that's.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else? Yes, sir.
Larry Rinaldi,
50 Waterman Avenue. Since it's gone, all the natural growth and development and trees are all going to remain. Is there going to be, my issue is security, I guess. People ripping off the crops, since it's going to be in the back. I mean, it's not going to be like seen from the road. If you go like in Springfield or whatever, it's a very public area where everybody can see what everyone's doing in there. And where we are going to be, it's not going to be like that.
Actually, it is close
Yeah,
to the
it
road.
will be seen
It's
by the
very
road.
visible from the road. In fact, if you want to come up,
65 feet away
it's,
from the street.
it's probably,
The closest part is 65 feet away.
Okay.
yeah, it's very close to the road. It's very open, if you will. I don't know if there's going to be any places to hide, if you will, because I don't think there's any trees there other than the scrub that's there, and I don't think there's a lot of that.
No, not in the front.
No.
It's been mowed.
So hopefully that answers your concerns or your questions.
I think with anything that's new, all of the concerns that you have are very, very pertinent, and as we go forward, we're going to assess and make sure that we hear concerns and listen to people, and reassess as we go forward. We want it to be a success. We want it to be a wonderful thing for the folks who have worked so hard to make this happen, but we don't want it to be a bad experience for anyone who has to live next to it or who's working hard to grow their vegetables. So
I mean,
if we
certainly
can
if
take it one
there's,
step at a time.
if there's problem with the butters, I'm sure we'll take care of, or do our best to shield it or take care of whatever the problem is, you know.
We appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah.
All right,
What
anybody
is
else?
the
Yes.
projected date for this? Oh, I'm
Go ahead,
sorry.
no,
That's
no,
all right.
that's fine.
Go ahead.
I didn't know the projected date for this to happen.
Well, they're kind of waiting on planning board approval of the site plan and then start advertising, and I guess this year, being that it's partially already into the growing season, they're gonna do what they can to get whoever they can this year and kind of work it as it goes, so it's tough to say, but.
Right. And there's work to be done in advance, so that DPW needs to go in. There's going to be a little widening of the road to make it safe for people to drive in and drive out at the same time. Water lines need to be brought in, so there's, and some paving work at the entrance so that gravel isn't going into the road. So that initial work needs to take place first before even anything happens. Maybe we'll have pumpkins.
Okay.
plant those
Deirdre Bayou, 55 Rockingham. So I still had a couple questions. Maybe this is stuff I could find online, because I didn't realize that there was other stuff that I could have read before I got here, so I didn't do my homework. So
Ask away.
I'm going to ask some questions though. Have you asked the town or other residents if there was a need for community gardens? Because like when I drive around, I see people have big properties and spaces to grow things. So before you, have you even like suggested
Yeah.
or asked other people?
Yeah, that's I think that's how we got here to begin with.
Yeah.
And I heard you say it was going to be like a temporary use.
So the Friends of the Brown property are a group of people who thought that, and I have to applaud them for the work and the effort that they put
Right.
forward. They saw this property not being used, and they came forward to the Board of Selectmen with a use for the property. It is temporary in that all of the products that we're putting in to lay the driveway area, dirt, wooden beds, those can all be removed if we somehow have found money and plans for 4 soccer fields and the ability to do that. Those things can be removed, and that can happen if that's something that's decided. Right now, there is no proposed use for that property. This is a wonderful opportunity to put property to use and allow people who can't have gardens or don't have them now to get involved. A lot of the people who are interested in this are interested in a family experience, growing vegetables, yourself included, bringing their children there and having that kind of experience. So I don't think that the idea would have been brought to us had not a whole group of people come forward and said this is something that we'd like for the town.
Anything else? Did you have any other questions?
No, I'm good. I said thank
Sure.
you.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
missed that. All right, is there anybody else? All right, I'll bring it back to the board. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then we're gonna move forward with this. I know there's been discussion about a letter as far as who's gonna do what, when, certificates of liability. We also, I talked to Robin about this today, is maybe somebody from DPW to maybe stop by once in a while to see, as long as the work is getting done and not impacting the neighbors. People are not working outside of the box that they're supposed to be working in.
Correct. And as the representative from the Board of Selectmen, I am pleased to work with Robin.
Okay.
And we've agreed that whatever's going to happen there, if it can be communicated to us.
Yep.
And then I'm aware and you are aware of what's going on, even if it's today we have 20 volunteers coming to
Right.
to put the first, load of loom in.
Yep.
So we're going to work with the volunteers from the
Okay.
Brown property to let them know how we want to be communicated with, and I'm very comfortable working with Robin, who knows all of the
Terrific.
ins and outs, if that's
Yeah, I think
agreeable
that's-
with the board. So we will have systems in place so that everyone knows what's going on and who's on first,
Okay.
and we can all feel comfortable.
Terrific.
Is that,
I think that's what we're looking for.
that's what, great.
All right. Any other questions from the board?
I have none.
Ralph?
I noticed that from the original plan to now, the Sandy cans have been removed. Was that, I mean,
Well, I mean, at
basically
the
go
roundtable,
first?
they had just spoken about who was paying for it. Originally, there was talk about trying to get somebody to donate one or donate money to take care of it. The town had basically said that they don't want to be responsible for taking care of it. They get tipped over. And they didn't want a shed on the property, so any kind of structure that somebody could break into. They don't want any storing, obviously, of any fertilizer or chemicals or anything on the site. So rather than even have any kind of storage shed, it's what you come with is what you leave with. Any trash, anything, you're responsible for taking off site, and
And before you leave.
yeah.
It would make sense not to have it rather than to have it.
Yeah.
I think it's a better policy.
just noticed the difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one other thought that I had is there going to be posted rules and regulations for the gardens?
I think that they're working on that on their website, and I would imagine that they're going to be giving.
Yes, our town attorney has looked at, the folks from the Friends of the Brown property have submitted, he's looking at, and there will be very specific rules and regulations, much about what we just talked about, what you're allowed to bring on, what you bring on, you must bring back, pesticides, no storage. So all of those rules and regulations are being approved by town council now, and whoever comes onto the property will have to abide by that. I imagine as well, they would post those on the website, and perhaps we can do something with the town website as well.
If someone's interested in one of these quads, how do they go about putting their name in for one?
I believe a press release is waiting to be published as soon as we have approval
See
from.
somebody with a big grin back there.
I think that as soon as we know we can move forward, the folks that have been working so hard to get this, Heather and your whole group working very hard, they're ready, they're chomping at the bit to move, so
Good.
there's an application process, and that information will be publicized immediately.
If there's an abundance of requests, more so than there is property, is it going to be a lottery or first come, first serve?
So I would say that upon approval of this project, that Robin and myself and the folks from the Brown property are going to communicate regularly to make sure that we are all on board with how things should move forward, so that the selectmen feel comfortable with how things are being processed, and that the planning board is comfortable, and that the folks from the Friends of the Brown property are feeling good about how they move forward. So it's in everyone's best interest to be doing this professionally and
Openly.
communicate and openly, yes.
Good. Good. Looks like a great project. Looking forward to it seeing coming to a head finally.
George, anything?
Nothing to add to this plan now.
Sandra?
One question, who's gonna take care of the show gardens for the curb appeal and the raised beds and all that lawn area and that needs to be mowed and stuff? Is that DPW or?
No, there are a group of volunteers. I mean, these are the Friends of the Brown property. Once this is approved, there are a whole group of people who want to move in and volunteer their time to make this happen. And again, once we hear yes, the press release will go out, and then all of those systems will be put in place. I will give you my word that I will be involved with all of that, along with the folks from the Friends of the Brown property, and communicating with Robin, so that but that's all volunteer. So whatever happens there is going to be a result of the people of this community.
Yeah, I guess in essence, which will be better than nothing. I'm assuming nothing's being done right now. That's
No,
right.
nothing's-
Right.
Perfect. Okay.
All right, anything else from anybody?
No.
Did you want to add something, or?
The memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, we talked about that, and I know as far as who's going to do what, when, liability, I think.
No, the Board of Selectmen, at least this is what I understand, that nothing can be done on the property until the Board of Selectmen approve the memorandum of understanding.
Okay.
And that's scheduled for the 14th?
14th, yes.
Okay. All right, so you are aware of that as far as we need to know?
Well, do we make our, if we were to approve
It would be
this, do
subject
we?
to their-
It's,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the memorandum of understanding is between the Friends of the Brown and the selectmen as far as, that would incorporate the rules that the town attorney is looking at right now and so on and so forth. That's a separate, kind
Yeah, it
of, just
almost
like
has nothing to
with
do
the
with it, I
Bark
guess.
Park, there's a memorandum
Yeah.
that you will use this and it's
That makes
on
sense.
a temporary basis
Right.
and, you know, at whatever
Makes
time,
sense.
so
Your,
yes.
Your backyard, not
That's,
ours.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Perfect.
That being said, can I get a motion to approve the Brown Farm Community Garden?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. You're all set.
Thank you so
Congratulations.
much.
Thank you.
That's great.
Good luck.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chris.
All right. I'm gonna open the meeting back up. Next up, we're gonna take a request for a waiver site plan for Verizon.
I have a request for waiver of site plan review. Property owner, this is DPW, Town of East Long Meadow Water Department, 60 Center Square, East Long Meadow, Mass. 01028, 525-5400. The owner of the business is Bell Atlantic Mobile of Massachusetts Corporation Limited, DBA Verizon Wireless. The business owner's address is 99 East River Drive, East Hartford, Connecticut. The property address is Prospect Street Water Tank. No proposed hours of operation, no employees, no parking plan. A summary of business operation. Verizon Wireless is adding 3 upgraded antenna panels and 3 remote radio heads to the existing water tank installation. That's it.
That's it? All right.
And there's a bunch of data behind it. But.
All right. Anything you'd like to add or anything else that we missed?
Thank you. Good evening. Attorney Mike Fenton for Verizon Wireless. That is a pretty sufficient explanation of what we're proposing to do here. Currently, there are 3 sets of 4 antennae on the water tank, and we're looking to go from 3 sets of 4 to 3 sets of 5. Okay. And there will be 3 AWS panel antennas, 3 LTE radio remote heads, 3 AWS sector distribution boxes, and 1 main distribution box. It will have little, if any, visual impact on the town. All colors will be matched to the existing tower and existing antennae, and this request has to date been approved by DPW through its agent, Sean Kelly.
Okay. Terrific. Any questions by the board? Anybody?
No, it seems pretty straightforward. They're swapping out 3 sets of 4 to 3 sets of 5.
Yeah. And I don't think, like you said,
Color's gonna match.
Little to no
It's not
visual
gonna
impact.
change the use of the property.
Yep. Anybody? George, you have
No.
anything you'd like to add?
Should result in some added cell phone coverage for the town, as well
Terrific.
as some added data capacity for 4G technology.
Terrific.
Yeah, good.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve waiver site plan
So
for
moved.
Verizon Wireless?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Moving forward, let's have Optimum Massage, 143 Shaker Road. Come on up, have a seat. You want to have somebody else read, or are you okay?
I'm okay.
Okay. Do we have
There's
anything?
nothing to read.
Okay. I know we were waiting for some licenses.
Yep.
I
Right.
believe we have those.
Yes, you
Provided
do.
with them everything.
Yes, you do.
All right,
Covered
so
everything.
all those bases have been covered. Is there any input from any other board members as far as she's concerned, as far as massage?
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yep. We got all the requested
We got all the
information.
requests, we got everything we
Yes.
need?
Yep.
Okay,
Right.
super.
All right, so if there's no other discussion, can I have a motion to approve Optimum Massage at 143?
To close the hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, now can I have a motion to approve Optimum Massage 143?
So moved.
Shaker Road?
Second.
That's contingent upon, those were applications for licenses, I'm assuming?
Right.
So it would be contingent upon actually receiving the license?
As
which
soon as you get it.
catch 22.
Yep.
Yes, thank you for
Not a
pointing that out
problem.
to us. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Terrific, okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good to go.
Thank you, Julianne.
Thank you.
All right, we're getting a little bit of time here, so a complaint came in about signage on their special permit. The complaint came in from somebody that does not live in town. So I don't feel the need to address that, but I figured I'd ask everybody else's input, and then if you decide you want to move forward, then I would put a letter to Dan
What
Hillier.
was the
Well-
complaint?
It's about signage for two of the businesses under special permit, I think sandwich signs.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, the complaint did come from somebody out of town, but again, I have my own opinion, but I would like to hear everybody else's opinion before I send a letter to Dan Hillier.
I don't know, I don't think it's a matter of who the source is, because if there's a violation, the zoning officer has to notify the property owner.
Okay?
So it's not more or less facing your accuser, because your accuser is really the zoning book.
Okay?
Okay, it's no different than in a, say, a building code violation. You know, if someone picks up on a building code violation, if they reported it, someone has to inspect it, someone has to note the violation, or acknowledge that there is a violation.
Okay?
I agree with that, and I'd say generally, there's a major problem with sandwich signs on Shaker Road. There are more than just two businesses that have that problem.
Right now I'm on, yeah, we have a complaint about two right now.
There's at least a dozen out there.
Okay?
Okay. And I think that we ought to ask the building inspector to do an inspection of Shaker Road.
Okay.
And determine whether or not there are any unapproved signs there.
Okay.
And if so, to take action and report back to us.
Yeah, take the appropriate action.
Yeah.
Ralph?
I would agree. I don't think I would single out the business. I would say the area and take a look. I know
Okay.
we had discussed months ago possibly reviewing the sign permitting bylaw because so many of the businesses do find those sandwich board signs. I don't know whether they find them appealing, if they work or not, but it seems as though most businesses now are leaning towards using those, especially for a temporary sale and stuff, and it may be something the board chooses to look at in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, some of them are permanent. They're out there every day, all year long.
Got weeds growing around.
Yeah.
Sandra, got any input?
Have to agree with the board.
Okay, then,
All right, now, do you want me to only deal with the ones that the
let's
planning
deal with the
board
ones
has the
under special
control
permit,
under?
right, yeah. And, you know, subsequent to that, we'll say, you know, could you also go down Shaker Road, because there's been other complaints about other signs, but right now,
Okay.
as far as the planning board's concerned, I want to deal with what is under special permit, because that's what falls under our umbrella.
Right,
As far as the rest of it goes, that does not, that would be up to Dan Hillier and his discretion.
okay.
All right, so I just want to differentiate what's ours and what's not.
Yep, understood.
All right?
Makes sense.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we got a few more minutes. Meadows Produce, I believe we're still waiting for one occupant to vacate, so we can revoke, or not revoke, but rescind their special permit
Right,
and
she
proceed.
needs to put that, Mr. Graziano called me today, said that she was not under his lease. However, she does have the special permit to operate there, and she hasn't contacted me yet.
Okay.
So
So at this
I
point,
explained that to him again, that she needs to be the one.
all right,
So what if she doesn't?
I
then
don't,
there's
I don't
nothing
know.
we can do, I think. I mean, right now, we're kind of holding, waiting for them.
Well, unless Mr. Graziano makes a request that we vacate the special permit.
Does he have the authority to vacate a special permit?
Do we?
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
he could-
he-
he
If he
could.
makes the request,
Being the property owner, he
Yeah.
could
he-
make that
yeah.
request, could he?
he could say that there was
And
special
then you'll have
permit
a
here.
revocation hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah, which would,
Because honestly, I don't think.
I don't think this lady's gonna come in.
We can't issue a special permit if they don't have the authority of the property owner.
yeah, I think that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
if she no longer has a lease with him, it's just like somebody with a home-based business moving out of their house. We can revoke it without, on the basis that
Why
they're
don't we
not
send them a
using
letter
it.
explaining to them what we want to do?
Mr. Graziano?
Yes,
Yeah.
saying, you know, we know what you want to do, we're going to rescind your special permit in essence, so you can move forward with your new special permit.
It's not a special
to
permit,
her-
it's a waiver.
Waiver.
Yeah.
To her or to?
Without, I guess he is a
or
property
to
owner.
both of them?
Probably letters to both of them, I think would be fair.
Well, I'd send in Mr. Graziano with a copy to her.
Agreed, definitely agreed.
To make sure she receives it, should we do register receipt?
Yeah.
Okay. And should we put a clause in there, if she has any objection, she has, 48 hours in which to contact our office?
So, because I'm assuming somebody else wants to get in there and move forward.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we just
Well, yeah, the
we
produce
just
man.
revoked Bruce Mittens and he didn't even show.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the same scenario.
All right, so do you want to just then, instead of doing that for the next meeting, schedule a meeting to revoke? And if she doesn't show, then revoke it then?
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, I think
Yeah.
that's, that way
Yeah.
we're
Want
done.
to do that? Because
Yeah.
that's what we did with
Yeah.
Mr. Mitten, because
Yeah.
he wasn't responding.
Exactly.
That way we do things in the right order, and once that's done, they can proceed
She's got
with
2
a
weeks.
new special permit.
Because
All
it's
right, so-
unfairly holding up
Correct.
somebody else.
Right,
Because
right.
I honestly
Alright, so
don't
let's
think
do
she's
that.
gonna show.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 2
Why
weeks,
Butcher the guy who's gonna
revocation
rent
hearing,
it, you know.
right?
Yeah.
I'm surprised honestly, why we're waiting 2 weeks?
So they're sending letters.
Yeah, okay, no.
So-
Well, do you
I mean,
want to,
for
do you want
argument's
to
sake-
No,
allow
I wish
the?
we had done this last
I
week.
know.
Yeah, but I've been calling and wrote
Yeah.
letters and
Okay.
everything, and I haven't gotten any responses.
Okay.
I mean, they've known about it in Mr. Graziano too,
Yeah, and
for
it's not, I
well
don't think it's
over a
up to us
month.
to push them, you know, it's up
Right.
to them to push themselves.
Yeah, true.
So-
Okay.
All right, you wanna,
So a revocation hearing in 2
Yes.
weeks.
you wanna take one more before 6:45? Discuss for signage?
Is he here? He was coming,
Okay, then maybe we'll wait for that.
yeah. I don't see Peter.
Want to do the A&R? Or no?
Do we have?
That's gonna be a lot.
Plus he's
Yeah.
outside, right there.
All right, we can start early because it's not a public
Sure,
hearing.
right.
All right, why don't we go with our 6:45 St. Paul's Church? We're gonna discuss some tree cutting.
You want us to come sit up there?
Please.
Come on down. What the seats are for.
All right, we received a few complaints about trees being cut. I think there's some, not unanswered questions, but I think there's people's perception of what's going on is not what they perceived when they left the last meeting.
Sure.
I actually went to the site today, saw what you did. I spoke with a neighbor. I went home and looked at the plan. I understand what you did, I understand why you did it. After looking at the plan, the detention, retention, swale in that back corner is pretty close to the property line. The grade issues from what's existing to what you need to meet, I think is gonna be hard to achieve with trees there. That being said, you know, we have some concern, the neighbors have concerns. So I think for the board's concern, for the neighbors' concern, I would like to go over what you guys are preparing to do in the end as far as a buffer to protect them, to satisfy them, and to, you know, appease what we discussed about at the last meeting. So if you got, if you have some answers or some explanations, that'd be great.
Sure, okay. My name is Raymond Casella. I represent the Diocese of Springfield and St. Paul's Church, and I'm also the architect of record for the project. The trees in the back where the retention basin is has not changed. What did change is the rest of the tree line between the edge of our driveway to the property line. The trees in the back did get cut.
Yep.
And the reason why the trees did get cut there, and the contractor did take it upon himself to do so, was when the homes were added in the back, they cut back to the property line, which is their right to do so. When he was clearing the area where we are grading to, because we had to add the extra parking spaces on the end of the parking lot, we had to remove some trees, and that narrowed the band down. When he got to the back, his words to us were, A, the trees were scrubby and were in not good shape. His feeling was that the trees that were left no longer had the strength of being a fatter, thicker area of dense trees, and in his professional opinion, he felt that they were unsafe to leave them the way they were. Being A, that they were several of them that were taller and had been growing for a while. Also, some of the trees were sitting in a very sandy base there, which he felt had a very shallow root base, and he was afraid that a large windstorm would A, put them into the new homes, or B, put them onto the parking lot, and he did not want the liability for that, so with his professional opinion, he decided to take them down. Then we went out to the site after I received a call from Robin that there was some complaints that the trees were being cut. I went there and did see that the trees were cut. At that time, all work on the site stopped. As you'll notice, nothing has happened on that site for about 2 weeks now. Mainly because we wanted to get this issue resolved. That being the trees being removed. I did look, the grading that we did was done by Gary Swanson, the engineer, because he felt that was what was necessary to get the water off the back of the site, to channel it away, and to try to mitigate the very high water table. If you remember the last meeting, some discussion arose over the water in basements and the high water table in the area. His point was to mitigate that as much as possible, trying to have the zero return to the system in the parking lot. So that being said, we wanted to make sure we gave you exactly the grades that we had, and then in the contractor's opinion, he felt that removal of the trees would make a safer condition, one that he felt he couldn't leave the way it was at that time. Now, as a response to what we owe you in the end is we do realize that the zoning book says there's a 20-foot buffer with trees that are a minimum of 4 feet high at the time of planting and are whatever the zoning regulations require on top of that. The church realizes there's an extra expense. They are willing to pay to have the buffer put back the way the buffer is required in the zoning regs. They just felt that it would be imprudent to leave those trees and the scrub back there if there was any risk at all of damage where their insurance claim would either be against the homeowner or against the people in the parking. So there was not there was no malice, and there was obviously no ill intent. It doesn't help us by clearing that in the back. It just complicates it. It also makes it more visible to the back, and it also costs us more. So there was no plus for them doing that. They were doing it in maybe an abundance of prudence and trying to make sure that they did the best job that they could. So again, there was no malice or any surreptitious way of getting any more property, because that's unusable back there. So that was the reasoning that the contractor had used on that, and that is, I think when the job is done, I am sure somebody will be out, Dan or someone will be out to verify that the buffer that is required by the zoning is installed along the back. And Father has been made aware of this clearly, and he understands that.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to add anything?
You know, knowing that you want to meet the requirements of the bylaw for the buffer is a nice gesture. But you know, when you look at these photos, like this one here, on visible that backyard is, it's pretty shocking. And to know you're only going to put in a 4-foot tall shrub or tree isn't going to provide a lot different than what you see in that photo, at least not for years to come.
Right, and I would point to the fact that the area where the trees were, if we looked at what was there, that was mostly underbrush that was on the property that was sold in the back, and the area that we cut, they did not modify any of the part that's behind the building or to where the dumpster is. That's remained the way it always was on the plan. What they did do is they just went beyond with the parking lot, and they kept on going down the line. And what was there, if you remember, was mostly underbrush and growth. Now, there were some large trees as you get down to, I believe it's the southerly side of the site, which were pines that were sticking up closer to that pine grove in the southern corner. Those they were feeling were very unlikely to stand as individual trees scattered without the big depth behind it. Again, I was not the person on site to say that it was my expert opinion that did that, but it was the tree person who felt that they would be setting up a situation that would cause a liability issue. So I can only speak to their expertise on that and the honesty that they would tell us, simply because it obviously costs us more to put the buffer in, and it obviously costs us more to take that down. It wasn't something, again, for a gain, and the buffer will be 20 feet wide. It'll meet the requirements, and I do understand that the area is a lot more visible in the back, but we're only trying to do what we would like to think is what we're entitled to on our land without offending anybody, especially since it is a growing large parish.
Understood, but when you look at this before photos, granted, it's hard to understand how thick that screen was and whose property the trees were on. You know, I'm sure some of them might have been on the neighbors that you might have been referring to as, scrub.
in all fairness, I think the trees they cut were theirs.
Okay.
From what I saw.
Yeah, we would
today.
never trespass
Okay.
on somebody else's
Okay.
I
property.
could see the property lines,
Okay.
silt fences on, pretty close to the property line.
Right. The surveyor put those in too,
Yeah.
to make sure we didn't.
Yeah, because I think one of the neighbors had his property surveyed as well, which mirrored.
Right, they were, and I'm not criticizing and nobody is pointing blame, but some of the houses had actually
Which is not-
occupied
not
some, right,
uncommon.
and we were not, nobody was complaining.
Yeah,
And what we were just saying is, I guess the guy, when he went to cut, there was a little friction. He's like, look, we're just cutting these because they're on our property, we have to do this. And nobody was trying to assign any blame, they were just trying to clean that.
Yeah, understood. But is there a possibility that we might go to a 5 or 6 foot tall?
I would be very happy to float that with Father and with the bishop, and I would say that the church would be willing to do whatever they can within the means of their budget to.
Because honestly, 4 feet would get you to the top of the pool, roughly.
There's a couple
You
problems
know?
with the site too. Elevation, all the houses are higher.
Yeah.
They are much.
Yeah.
This is Chris Bertelli's location, so what we had talked about, and I'm pricing them out now, is getting some, 6-foot arborvitaes to be planted there with it. There's discussion as to how close they need to be and
Right,
all that
yeah.
kind of stuff, but they're
Okay,
reasonably
understood.
priced. They're, $25 to $30 a plant.
Okay.
And we had talked to Chris about doing that before all of this even got cleared.
Okay.
That's still our intent.
Do you intend to plant them on a straight run, or are they going to be staggered?
We don't know.
We would take the advice of the landscape architect or whoever wants to make, what we want to do is we're going to pay for them, we're willing to make them so they screen best. If someone
Sure,
would prefer
that's what
them
we're
on an
looking
angle,
Okay.
we'll put them on an angle.
Actually, I think what I would prefer is before you start getting trees in the ground, I would like to see a planting plan, a landscaping plan that shows what you're planning on doing, so we can review it and agree before the trees go in the ground and become irreversible.
Or if what you would like, what we'll do is we'll bring them there and put them on the ground. You can move them right and left and stand in different places.
Well,
We'll buy a ton of them.
I'd actually rather see a plan that says this is where the trees are going to go. That way we've got something on record that says this is what you were going to do, this is where they were supposed to be, and if a couple of them die, we know where they're supposed to go in the future. It's just easier to look at a plan before you start digging than to dig and then go, no, I want to move it,
That's not a problem.
Okay, that would make me happy. Not that it has to be done before, you continue work on the building, but I think before those trees go in, I'd like to see that.
We would like to get the building finished because they're going to be ripping up the paving in the back
Sure.
and making a mess. So when that whole site is done and then they do their final grading and seeding, then they will have the site prepared and ready for that because as you know, the shrubbery are obviously going to be the last thing
Correct.
that will go on site. And I assume that will be either late fall or first thing in the spring, depending on when the project reaches its conclusion.
Late fall or?
I would like it to be done by late fall. If we've got
Yeah.
all the grading and the paving and all that done, depends on the contractor's schedule. He wants to be done tomorrow, so there is no, there's no result, there's no intent to hold on our part.
Yeah. But in the meantime, these people lose all their privacy for the summer.
Right, and there's no question that that's true, but right now it is an active construction site,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to be mean, but it is on our property that we're
True.
doing the work,
Yeah.
and we would like to mitigate, but we can't make the construction site cost more and then have to take the trees out and risk that they are going to die because they're going to be doing more grading, more equipment running over. And when pavers and the rest come in, it's going to be a little bit of a construction site.
Yeah,
What about
understood.
temporary fencing, like they're doing around Bluebird, what they're doing at Bluebird?
I think that the cost of that for a site of this size, I mean, if it was a legal requirement, we'd be happy to do it, but remember, the bishop himself, as he said before, there are 800 families in there that are paying for this, and they don't mind doing whatever they can to make it easy, but they also are keenly aware of finance. And again, I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, but the church is trying to put as much as they can towards beautifying and making the end result perfect. If it's something that is an order, I think the bishop would entertain it, but as I would say, I'd rather buy 30 more trees in the end, so everybody gets higher trees than for a few months. And I know that sounds callous, but the bottom line right now is it is an active construction site, and we are, again, totally on our property and do not intend to touch anybody else's.
Anybody else have anything else to say?
As far as the temporary fence, I think because of the elevation change, it wouldn't make a
Kind of
difference
pointless.
whatsoever.
No.
As far as the planting goes, I mean, I personally would like to see some type of trees put back in afterwards. And I'm not talking arborvitaes that are going to take 40 years to grow. I'm talking whether it be a maple tree, oak tree, or something on that idea where hopefully at some point in time they have some of theirs back, but I think a plan ahead of time, just showing what you're thinking, would be very helpful.
I was thinking mostly what the code, what your book was saying was we had to do something in the 4-foot range, and I don't mind entertaining whatever else, but I am keenly aware that every time we had, and again, I am not trying to sound disrespectful, but the
Yeah,
cost of
don't
those
answer so
trees are, I just know that with our budget and the way the diocese is running, that their main goal is putting money towards charity, and if I put it towards the trees, I know that I can put in some. I just don't want to promise something that I don't have the authority to do. If we can speak, if we have suggestions from people, we'll be happy to entertain them. I'll be happy to even look at any location anyone wants. But I don't want to promise something that I can't right yet because I don't have the authority to do that. And again, that's not a disrespect. That's.
I'm kind of with Ralph too. If they can sneak in a few maples and pines instead of just doing a straight row of arborvitae.
I'd be happy to, and I know you
I think
understand
down the road
planting.
it
I'd
would
love
be
to have some input on that. Again,
I think down the road the arborvitaes will probably give you more of a headache than anything.
well, they're going to be more of a trimming thing.
Yeah.
The only thing I worry about the maples is that, in the winter and all, that they're kind of sparse. So I don't know if there's something else you could recommend that'll give you a little bit more of
Some
a
white
quicker
pines,
growing.
some hemlocks.
Yeah,
something.
I mean, hemlocks are fine. Blue spruces grow fast and they grow tall. I don't know if that's something that we can put in also. I mean, we'll be happy to take thought.
My thought is just to get
Wanna
something
get some
that would get
elevation.
a little more elevation than what an arborvitae will give
But
you.
stay away from hemlocks.
Okay. Okay, that's fine too.
They're dying off rapidly.
They are dying off.
Yes,
They just, unfortunately.
But I do believe a plan ahead of time, like I said, after construction, before
Sure.
it's installed, would be very helpful.
All right. All right, because we are here tonight, I'm gonna ask the neighbors, the neighbors that have bought that property, is anybody, you have questions or anything you'd like to say, or any questions you need to have answered? We'd love to give you the opportunity to speak your mind and ask your questions.
Chris Bertelli, 2 Athens Street. The plantings are all fine. I just want to talk about the fence, because the last meeting, the fence was supposed to remain to keep what was on the church property and also prevent people from cutting through. The fence was taken down. I just want to make sure something else is going up there, because there's a lot of people in the back learning to drive, hanging out, walking their dogs. I just want to prevent them from just keep walking right up into our yards.
Sure. Can I?
Yes,
Thank
please.
you. Chris, I think, are you on the side or are you on the rear?
I'm in the back corner,
But
right behind the building in the back corner.
So but you're technically north of the site, not east of the site.
I'm not where all the
not
big
on
pines
Braeburn?
were just taken down.
You're not on Braeburn, you're on the.
Right, I'm on
Okay, and
Athens Street.
thank you. The only reason why I ask is that fence will extend all the way down the side of the property. The one that cut across, the back obviously is gone because it would be partially going through the building and partially through the driveway.
Yeah, and that's what I figured, because I knew you guys had to move that
Right.
for the building plan, but I
Right.
just want something there so people just can't come and go as they please.
The way
Yeah,
his
not just the
parcel
perimeter.
is, he's at a 90-degree angle between Athens and Braeburn
Okay.
Road.
Right.
So
Right.
back of his yard is part of it's on Braeburn, and his house is actually faces Athens.
Okay, that's.
So he has maybe, I'd say,
I
a
have
12,
like a
15
corner,
foot space.
Yeah,
Is that
our
right?
lot kind of corners around your back end.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know my original intent was to continue it down the side, and I did not put it on the back because, the back being the east direction where the new homes are, simply because that was the new side, and we figured that the buffer zone was in that area, and we wouldn't be trying to cut through there, but.
What are you looking for, Chris? What is it that, are
Well, I
you
just
looking
wanted
for
to
like
give
a
people
white vinyl
access.
fence or something that cuts across the back line?
That would be even nicer, but I'm just really.
How much footage do you have there?
Maybe from where the shed is coming up around the corner down to the back, maybe about 100 or so feet.
That's a good guess.
Yeah. So on the back side of Braeburn, you have 100 feet on that side? Oh, wow, I didn't think it's that wide.
If I may, I don't think
Yeah.
he has 100 feet on Braeburn, but I think collectively between
Yeah, collectively
Braeburn and
between
Athens.
Braeburn
Oh, okay.
there's 100
All right,
feet
gotcha.
combined. I'm guessing 40 and 60 from what I saw today,
On
if I had to
the,
guess.
on the Braeburn side, 40 to 60 maybe?
So 60 on the Braeburn side, 40 on the Athens side.
Got it, rough and
Create
tough.
that 90-degree
Yeah.
angle.
Okay. Well, maybe when we do the plan, we can look at what's reasonable for within our
Yeah.
budget, and I know you're saying you're looking for
Well-
prevention of people from walking their dogs and things, make sure they don't have access to your yard.
Pretty
Is that
much.
pretty much?
Yes.
So I guess we'll have to look at
We
it.
can look at the same fence that was up there. I know.
What was up there
The
before?
chain link fence.
Just the chain link fence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
there-
can-
well, also there's one of the new houses that's put up a white
Yeah,
vinyl
they-
fence.
I saw that,
too.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
maybe we can continue with that, or,
Or
try
we can
to.
look into that. We can speak with with you when that time comes to make sure something goes there.
When we put the plan together, maybe for the buffer, we'll carry into that some
Yeah.
form of protection over there, whether it's chain link fence or vinyl fence,
Okay.
see what works for everybody. That makes sense. That's affordable. Because those vinyl fences, it depends on how much square footage there. You got 60 feet. Those vinyl fences are pretty expensive.
Right. I just
Yeah, I know you're throwing that out as a
No, I know, I'm just,
aesthetic-wise,
I'm,
but
you know, trying to make sure
let's look
everybody
at
walks
the
away
chain
with a winner
link, let's
here.
look at the vinyl and see what's reasonable and works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
well-
think though that vinyl fence, if it goes down 40 or 60 feet on the Braeburn side, it's gonna look awkward with a cut stop where those other 4 new houses are. I assume that these people own those houses. So I think we gotta come up with something that works.
Yeah, even if we take the existing fence that's there, continue it around the corner and bring it all the way on the back, and they can
Yeah.
either put the slats in it if they want to do something, or just leave it and let the trees grow around it. If it stops the people from traversing the back, that might be easier, because there's already a fence there, so if we can't butt into his line without going onto other people's
Right.
property, because he's on his property, we're basically gonna have a foot between, and it might be easier just to do that and come up with a, we'll make sure if it's something, I mean, with permission from the diocese and from the building committee, I think there's no problem that someone will try to put a fence across that will tie in the back of that. That's what I'm hearing from.
Yeah,
everybody.
makes sense.
Good.
Is there
I'm
anybody
on
else?
I'm on the lot next to Chris.
Can you identify yourself?
Name
I'm
and
sorry,
address.
Adam Hessian, 161 Braeburn.
Okay. That's one of the new houses there?
Yeah, it's the
Okay.
first new house, which is next to Chris's property, and I'd have the same concern with the fencing. If you were gonna do the existing chain link, would it be on our side of the trees or on your side of the trees?
Don't know.
I
We'd
would
have to
imagine
wait
it would
and get
probably
the-
be on the back of the property
Yeah.
line.
Yeah, their side, I would imagine.
It would be on our property, but it would be on the back of the property line, running along the back. So it would encompass our trees, because someone's got to go back there and mow and contain, so they wouldn't want to be jumping the fence all the time. So it would probably be on the property line in the back. So it would be behind our trees, between the back of the new buffer trees and your property, where the property line runs right now.
Anybody else? Questions? One more?
Lighting plan, is there any opportunity to change the lighting plan? You know, we lost the buffer zone that we were looking at was probably 50 or 60 feet tall. The spotlights that are on the back of the church light up my house at night. There's specifically one in the middle of the back of the church that lights up, you know, shines through every window. And it's probably about 20 feet high on the church.
Yes, there are lights on the back of the church. I think they can address with timers when they go off. Unfortunately, by the code, they have to have a certain amount of candle watts per square foot out in the parking lot, but I know they can definitely put them on timers so they don't stay on. And I think we can address the, all the new lights that are on are obviously going to be dark sky compliant, and they are also timered not to do that. But the existing church itself, if there's something on the back of the church that's on, we have to make sure that that's timered so it doesn't certainly do that all night. And I will also ask them to re-verify that it's not out of alignment, naming the spotlight on your house. And that's certainly something that's, because that's several hundred feet away. There shouldn't be something that's that noticeably like visible to your house. So we can definitely have somebody look at that.
Robin, what do our regulations say as far as lighting?
It's not
Not
to
just
shine
spill
on
over
anyone else's property. Right.
So let's
Okay.
let's take a look at that.
If you could look into shields.
Well,
Well, then the problem is that's an existing light on the back of the building aiming to light the parking lot, so shielding that doesn't work. It would shield anything that you put on a pole so you don't spread over his property.
Right.
This would be something that's going across the entire parking lot from the other side, so unless there's entertaining of relighting the entire parking lot to get the 1.5 out there all the way around, I would have to take a look and see what that was, because all the new stuff is absolutely compliant. What is existing or on the existing building was not contemplated as part of this, but we can have a look and see what's on the back of the building.
I'd certainly like to see that addressed somehow, some way. Whatever you could do to mitigate that would be helpful to all.
Is that light pole, is it changing or is that one staying?
That
as
light
existing?
pole is just going to be moved back. What they're talking about is something up on the church itself, which is several hundred feet away. That's
Is
like
that the
length
one
of a
that's
football
shining in
field away.
your?
It's a the ones on the poles are yellow, and
Right.
they aim down.
Right.
The one that's on the back of the church is more of a white light, and
Okay.
it's
So that's the
on
one that
church,
shines
kind of-
across the
kind of in
lot,
middle.
the white light
I think
one?
that's the one that lights
Yeah,
us
because
up
the other
most.
ones are
Right.
downlight. That one there is like a spread across
Right.
the back of the.
Robert, can I ask, do we have a lighting plan from the original proposal?
Mark just took the plan.
No,
Yeah,
no,
we-
no, I mean from the, when the church was originally built.
Well, that would have been in the 50s.
It's 1962.
62 now, okay,
Yeah.
fine.
And
But
the
I
other-
know that the police department was adamant that the lights not go onto any of Davis's property.
Yeah,
Well, none of our new lights.
Yeah, the
will,
new
and
building,
lights
that was gonna
Yeah, the
address.
lights that are there, they were added by over the years, and I'm sure if we pull them off the back of the building, we are going to run into the same thing with the police department, saying you've got dark spots behind them. So I can tell you that we have all the light calcs, and I think you have them.
Yeah, we
For
I
the
think we
existing-
do too.
Yeah, I
And
know
I
you
think
do.
that the reason that they're shining in now is because the buffer has been removed.
Yeah,
So,
and then, that may change with the new buffer. I'm, if we can at least try to look at
Oh,
it,
yeah,
if we can
there's-
address it, we can
we
do
will
something
look
with it.
at whatever we possibly can to make the things as less stressful as we can. I can't say that something will change on an existing building that
Right.
is out of our control because we didn't touch that.
Okay.
But we are happy to examine, and if there's something that can be done to mitigate that without relining gross expense. We will be happy to aim them, change bulbs, but I don't think that they are ready to entertain doing the whole lighting plan for the parking lot, because that parking lot is covered by those larger existing lights on the side and a couple on the church, and I think they were added because it was dark back there. Now, I don't see any regulation in your town that says we can't have them on timers, that after hours they're off.
Right.
And that's something that I think is a fair thing for everybody, because it makes it dark after 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever, those lights all go off.
Okay.
That I think is a fair thing, and it also saves energy. So
fine.
that's fine with us, but I don't want to promise something that I can't, but know that we will absolutely be happy to look into make an adjustment if we can.
Is there any plan to put banks of trees in the parking lot? I had read that in some code, and I only was looking through the code quickly, but.
No, there is no, because the
Other than the buffer?
Other than the buffer, yeah.
I don't think so, because I think the parking lot doesn't go to the buffer, but I think there's, goes.
it does not go to the buffer, and secondly, we're not touching the parking lot other than adding of the LID piece in the back, the low impact development piece in
Okay.
the back. All of that obviously is compliant. The rest of the parking lot, no one's even touching,
Okay.
other than restriping to make sure you can see where the parking spaces are.
Okay. Anybody else?
I just,
Oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
question, and I don't really know how all of this works, but, we moved in a couple of months ago, and, we had 60-foot trees in our backyard, and, if we're gonna plant 4-foot or 6-foot trees, we're gonna be staring at a church parking lot for, 20 years, and that's definitely gonna decrease the value of our home. Of all the options, I think the vinyl fence was the one that was most attractive to me as far as cleaning up the property, but I don't know if that's doable or not doable, but that line of trees with the grade and the way that the grade drops off and then drops off again, we're just gonna be looking at a church parking lot for several years, which is gonna decrease the value of our home. And I understand why you did it, and that there was no gain for the church, but it was definitely a loss on our end.
It's understandable. All right, anybody else? Yes, sir.
Alex Crisaro, 169 Brayburn. At the point where you put the black tarp fencing, as I'll call it, at the edge of the property line?
Yes, that's
The edge of
a
our
sill
property
fence,
line.
yeah.
When you guys, the sill fence, right. When you guys eventually do the finished buffer and plant trees, are you going to finish that area in a landscape? Because from that sill fence, my yard, to the bottom of where you guys dug out the trees is anywhere from a 3 to 4 foot drop straight down like backhoe ditch. So is that going to be graded out and into a landscape, planted grass, or are you just planning on tree down the line, and we're left with stumps and sticks and this big drop off into the ground?
On our property, the back of the site will most likely be graded off and left space for trees, and some of it in front will, I imagine the front part of it will be grass. What goes on between the trees and that space behind them and the fence will probably remain a wooded area, or what will grow up to be not as well maintained as will be behind the trees. Will they grade it so there's not holes and stumps? Absolutely, because that's our point. We want to grade the area so we can get it level. But to make it so it looks like the manicured lawn outside, no, that wasn't their intent. But there is no intent to leave it as a hole with stump holes and things like that. That will not remain. And behind that sill fence, there is a very short piece of land that the diocese owns behind that, and most of that is to catch water going in that direction. Even though water never runs uphill, out of abundance of caution, we put sill fence all the way around, so there was no way at any time anything was leaving our site. And that's the main reason why they put the sill fence all the way around, even on the high side in the back.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Ryan and Mallory Labonte work 165 Rayburn. Our house is the one with the new vinyl fence.
Okay.
And my concern, when you guys talk about possibly extending the vinyl fence and doing that type of work, obviously we've already paid to have that done. As soon as the trees went down, we put the fence up because we were very, very concerned about our privacy. We have dogs, we have a baby on the way, so we were very, very concerned about that. So if that's in the plan, is there going to be some sort of reimbursement for the proactive work that we've already done?
I would have to say not what you do on your property is your business, what they do on their property is their business. I'd love to tell you yes, but unfortunately that's not the reality of it.
So the way that the fence is, according to the town, it's required to be 3 feet from the property line. So we are 3 feet from their property line.
Certain fences, not all fences.
Above 6 feet.
Correct.
Yes.
Stockade fences, yep.
That's correct.
Yep.
So so my question is, would the fence that would possibly go up, would it be along, would there be kind of like a break? Because it's not, because there's a 3 foot difference right there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it wouldn't be like a straight line.
There's going to be 6 feet between the fences if in fact they put up the fence similar to yours. Is that what you're trying to? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's a question for them, and if I don't want to speak for you guys, but I think you're still at the point where you need to go back and justify the expense with your parish or.
I think they're saying that if they put the fence back, it'll be like the fence that was taken down, which was the chain link fence across the back of the site, and I would imagine it would be close. It would be as close as legally possible to the back of the border, so we can have as thick a buffer as possible, and it would be 3 feet minimum off yours because the property line's there. It would be property line plus whatever the chain link fence requirement is East Long Meadow. I think it's less than
6 inches.
6 inches, so we'd probably be a foot just to make sure nobody steps on anyone else's property. So there'd be a space behind your fence that would run, and there would be
If
our
we do the fence all the way across.
Right, and then there would be, if that chain link fence goes to stop people from walking there, it would go the entire back, and it would be lower than your. Here's a beautiful fence that goes up. It'll be lower than that and running the entire rear of the site if. That is what because when you get to the opposite side, the southerly side, I don't believe the fence runs up to the street anymore. No. That's not there, so it's basically going to make an L and stop on the far corner.
Okay.
Because there is no other fence continuing up towards Dwight Road.
Okay.
And those houses are, as you know, like a foot off of our property line. So we weren't. That's why the building was originally going. That that whole story was. So what we're saying is we'd like to stay away from that.
Right.
And just have our line at that point, and at the back corner.
Okay. Anybody else?
Couple more things.
Please.
So I just wanted to first say that I also agree with Adam that the spotlight on the back of the house, we're right next door to Adam. It is, it didn't shine in the house before when the trees were there.
Yep.
So I just wanted to say that I do agree that it is a shining light, and I don't think that it was not an issue before when the trees were obviously there.
Yep.
So that's another point. And then also too, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but these trees were 50, 60 feet tall. I mean, we had friends and family over. We had, licensed arborist that was at our house, and he was, looking at the property and everything. And we have brought pictures that they weren't just scrubs and vines and brush. It was actual trees. I mean, we have pictures of the after when the trees were laying down and they were all bundled. I mean, I would have to assume that they sold the lumber and got some money for that as well. I don't know if that's a stretch, but at the same time, it's very upsetting. It's a property that we would have never purchased if this is what we were going to look at for the next 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, I do understand that. Our job here is to look out for your rights, but we also have to look out for their rights. The trees are theirs. They are entitled to do what they do. I know it's upsetting. I wish that we could reverse it and fix it. Unfortunately, we cannot. For conversation's sake, if they were your trees, you would have the right to take them down. We can't deny them the rights anymore than we can deny you your rights. All we're trying to do is try to mitigate the damage where everybody can walk away with something, maybe not what they had, but something better than what exists now. So, and I think that's why we're here tonight, so they can hear your concerns. We can express what the reality is of it, so can try to come to some conclusion that will benefit everybody. Again, I know it's upsetting to see the damage has been done, but you know, it is their right, and I think they are going to try to work towards mitigating it and try to, you know, pacify the peace, if you will. I know that's unfortunately probably not the explanation you want, but it's the best one I can give you.
No, and I understand that, you know, they're doing construction, and I understand why they took them down. I understand all of that. I do really like the idea of having a planting plan so that we can see before something actually happens.
Yep.
So that we, you know, like he said, hopefully he can take our suggestions and our input to, you know, get some fast-growing trees. I mean, you know, the idea of having a maple or an oak or an elm. I know the Princeton elms grow really fast. You know, something like that would be fantastic, and you know, to have that opportunity to have that input would be greatly appreciated.
Okay. And I empathize with you. I would be so upset if I just bought a new house on Braeburn Road and that whole buffer was removed. I don't think either Ray, myself, or the congregation expected to have that kind of impact on those trees. So I apologize for St. Paul's Church to you for the impact it's having on your life, because I understand. If I bought one of those houses, I'd be very upset, and I'd be sitting where you are now. What we will try to do is mitigate that to the best of our budget affordability, falling in line with, I would like something from the planning board that outlines what we're required to do. I don't know, you know,
it's in our book.
What's required to do, and then try to come up with a plan that meets the requirements, but also meets the needs of the neighbors. That's within reason of what we can afford to do. And so I think that's what our plan is going to be, and we'll bring the plan to the board. We'll try to get some expert advice from professionals that can guide us as to what trees go quickly, what trees are reasonably priced, and all of that, so we can come up with something so that it's not going to be perfect. You're going to know that, because you've taken down that whole buffer thing. But try to mitigate it so it's feasible, so that if you go to sell your house in 5 or 6 years, your value is back, so that people don't just look at a parking lot. So I understand that.
And just so you know, I know it's not consolation, but it actually cost the diocese. There was not a single penny gained for those trees. They were scrapped, and unfortunately, it was not done for any economic gain in any way, shape, or form. It actually will cost the diocese obviously more to go this route, but the tree people that were doing that really felt that those trees were in their professional opinion, not sound to stand, and could cause the diocese to be in a liability issue if it fell on someone's property.
Can I ask a question too? And again, I'm not trying to stir up offense, so he'll probably yell at me after he's asking the question. But when you bought the properties, did the contractor that sold you the home at least disclose the fact that the church, I'm not saying he had to do that anyway, but did he disclose the fact that your church was considering building a parish hall back there?
The way that he described it to us, or to at least to when we purchased the home, he had described it that the church was thinking about doing an addition on the right-hand side of the church.
Right.
The way that we understood that to mean was that they were building an addition on the church itself, not in the back of the parking lot.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
So I didn't understand.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
That's fair.
So we disclosed that they were going to do some addition, but it was more or less, and the plans originally were to be on that side of that church, but then it got parlayed because of cost and sprinkler systems and all kinds of issues.
I don't think that he intentionally tried to mislead
No,
us.
I don't believe he did either, but I just wanted to know, did he at least mention the fact that they were going to be doing something back there?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak tonight? Yes.
I'm Ryan Bonte, 165 Braeburn Road. My concern is the trees that are going to be put there, like everybody else's concern too, are going to take 20, 30 years to grow. I know of a special species of arborvitae that will grow 4 to 5 feet a year. We've already researched it the weekend that the trees were taken down.
Really?
It's a special, it's a green giant arborvitae. We talked to the lady at the nursery. She's had one for 5 years and they're already 25 feet tall.
So I think when the time
not
comes,
that expensive, but a different type of species of arborvitae, like, I don't know who said it, but somebody said something about a $25 arborvitae. I mean, it's only going to be 3 feet tall, and those aren't going to grow 4 to 5 feet a year.
Okay.
That's my concern, that the trees that are going to be put there are not going to provide enough privacy down the road.
all right, I think before we get to that point, I think the the plan you're gonna present us, we
Sure.
can discuss that and
There's a-
maybe get an expert opinion?
Well, we have our landscape architect will look at that, and phase 2 is in the back. There's a definition of the buffer in the definition section that we were looking, and what we'll do is, I know that that's where the 4 foot and the vagueness came out, and I don't mean it in a bad way as vague. I mean, they were very methodical about what they say, but we were happy to entertain more to mitigate the feelings, but we definitely didn't want to promise something that we couldn't deliver on.
It's understandable too.
And again, it's not out of malice, it's simply out of budget.
All right, well, I think it was important tonight that everybody got here to hear
Yeah.
what everybody's trying to do,
Yep,
so they understand what
absolutely.
you're trying to do and vice versa.
Yep.
You know, understand we as a planning board, what we can do, what we cannot do.
Unfortunately, though, it's gonna take 6 to 8 months for that plan to come into fruition, because we've stopped construction until we came to this meeting. Well, hopefully we'll start again Monday, and then they're telling us 6 to 8 months to build the building. And so if we're sitting at May 7th today, we're looking at to the end of the year, so you're probably looking at spring before that plan thing actually gets designed and in place.
How about the, how about the chain link fence?
You identify
or
yourself
fence?
again, just for the record.
So I said-
If you could identify yourself again, just for the
Alex
record.
Broussard, 169 Rayburn. Where was it?
Oh, you were saying.
Oh,
the
yeah,
chain
yeah,
link
so if
fence
we're
in
looking
back.
at if we're looking at the end of the year for completion of the construction project, that's fine. However, the chain link fence or vinyl fence or whatever gets decided upon, how long before that gets put up? I mean, I grew up in this town, I know that parking lot it's not a church parking lot, it's a busy parking lot. I went to high school here, we drove through there, we walked through, there was a main cut through for every high school kid in town.
Sure.
I know a chain link fence isn't gonna deter any 17-year-old from jumping the fence, but at least it's something, as opposed to where 30 yards of woods would have done something. If that's gonna take till the end of the year, well, that completely, it puts this summer, when kids are out of school and have plenty of things to do, plenty of extra time where they're not in school running in and out of those yards. Because really, I mean, with any kind of SUV, you could drive into my basement from the parking lot.
Yeah, the only thing I would say that it is gonna be an ongoing construction site, so there's gonna be people, equipment, so I don't, I think the foot traffic that you're talking about may be not as substantial right now with the construction going on. I think once we get to the point where we need to put the buffer up and/or fences, I think that, the issue that will be addressed.
If we can do it earlier and we can grade earlier and we have a milder fall, if we can get it in, there's no reason why we would make an effort not to put it in.
Okay.
It would just make sure that we got the grading done so we don't put something in and then have a mess. Yeah, again, there's no question that if it's going in, we gain nothing by making you wait. We want it done. They want to be using, all the members of the church, it's a huge parish, they want to be using the church. And they're very proud of that. The bishop was there, the mayor was there, a lot of people came. They want to see this done, so there is no impetus to not make everything get done as soon as possible. So I think with that, if there's a way of doing it earlier, absolutely, nobody will quarrel with that.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Anybody on the board? No questions. George?
No, we hopefully will see that planting plan sometime in the not too distant future, and we'll just keep our eye on it.
Okay.
That's all I can say.
All right.
When do you think you could have a planting plan?
What I would like to do is, since the trees were not contemplated as the area, we're going to have to get a little bit of survey site work done back there, and then we'll have the landscape architect put something together. I would imagine if you gave me 4 to 6 weeks, we could probably be in the realm of getting something. Again, it's not going to change the end result, and we're not delaying. I just don't want to do something and then have to see me here again, because what I'm trying to say is I'd rather just give you the solution instead of just rushing something. So probably give me 6 weeks.
We don't want to rush you either, but we don't want to lose sight
sure.
of this before, the winter season.
Sure, if you say
season's upon us.
mid-July, if you could say, do you have a meeting in mid-July or end of July, we'll put us on that, and
Yeah, sure.
something will happen for that time. If that's acceptable to the board and to the diocese, we'll be happy to create that.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's reasonable. That's reasonable.
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, let's get to Mr. Smith. Should we do 7:30? Get that out of the way?
Yeah.
Let's do, Mike, I can hold you on for a couple minutes. Can we do, is Peter Gray here?
Take care, have a good evening.
Hi,
Peter.
How you doing?
Oh, good, yes, you took mine.
I did.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
All right, we're here to discuss, I guess, an oven in your business. I don't think we have anything to read, so why don't you give us an overview of what you're looking to do?
Okay. I have this tiny little oven that is in this picture here. Small convection oven, not too big, glorified toaster oven, but something that gets me not having to run around to all these businesses to do my baking because it's taking a toll on me. But I'm hoping I can do some fun things this summer and start making some good treats.
All right, the size of this is 22 high, 31 wide, 21 5, so probably not much bigger than a microwave by the sound of it.
Yeah, large microwave.
Okay. I personally don't have any concerns with it. I don't think it's going to change the dynamics of the permit or what he's doing or what he's trying to do. I think this is just gonna help him.
It doesn't change it to a restaurant, so.
Not at all.
No.
Has the fire department seen this, or is there any reason for them to see that?
Not yet.
What about Board of Health?
Yeah, we have to check to make sure that the outlet's the correct outlet. It's 220.
Yeah.
And we have a 220 outlet there. We just need to call the manufacturer to find out what kind of outlet it
Receptacle?
takes. Yeah.
Right, so is this hardwired or plugged in? And-
It's just plugged in.
Okay, all right, so we don't have to worry about that.
Does this change the permit you need from the town at all in terms, because you're now preparing food instead of
You
just?
need to get a baker's license, but I believe that
Yeah, I
Fred
think that
has
would be
been out
Florida.
for a
Okay.
little while now, but I think we'd come to you first.
Yeah.
Are you preparing food or just warming it?
Kind of just warming things up, baking things off.
Okay.
That's about it, but no serving it to people, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing like
But
that.
baking though.
Yeah, but
Baking.
baking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's food prep?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cupcakes and cakes.
I believe it's just food
Red
prep,
velvet.
it's not,
Yeah.
it's definitely not a restaurant.
No, no.
It's not
No
consumed on
seats.
site or anything like that. I think it's just straightforward.
Sandro?
Straightforward to me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we don't need to vote on it. I think
No,
I think you're all set. I think
you're good.
You're ready to go.
Yeah, you should
Did we-
vote.
You wanna vote on it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to allow the use of the oven under the waiver of site plan, subject to the approval of the building inspector and the health inspector.
Should we know that it's not a substantial change to his operation?
Yeah, and noting that it's not a substantial change to the operation and does not require a special permit.
Right.
Amendment to special permit, would that be more
No.
accurate?
He doesn't have.
He doesn't,
Oh,
he's
gotcha.
he's under a waiver.
I'll second that motion.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming in.
Good luck.
Do you
All
need
right.
my
How are
notes?
things going?
Very good.
Do you need
Too
the
busy.
notes?
Isn't a bad thing, but it's really busy.
Awesome.
I gotta go bake tonight. I have 30 cakes on this weekend.
Wow.
You didn't bring anything.
I know.
Okay.
I don't have an oven.
Oh, well, you got us there. All right, now let's get to Mr. Smith and his A&R.
And the A&R is right there, Mike.
Which one?
Should
All
be.
right. This is one of those, this is going to be partly into our discussion later about our pre-existing non-conforming laws. What he wants to do is change a lot line on a pre-existing non-conforming lot. According to the state's A&R handbook, you're not allowed to change lot lines in a pre-existing non-conforming lot if you don't have the proper amount of frontage. That being said, the lot and or lot line change that is being presented to us tonight is making the pre-existing non-conforming lot less non-conforming. All right, everybody understand that so far?
So far, I haven't seen the plan, so.
Okay, I will show you the plan.
Robin, didn't we have a case like this years ago?
Well, actually, it's several.
Yeah, there's been ones that have been signed previously.
Yeah, there's been several. Now, the lot on the right, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, has right now 75 feet.
Yeah.
And he's taken 10 feet away from the lot on the left, bringing that down to 140, which still conforms.
He owns both houses.
All right, this particular person owns both parcels, but the lot on the right is pre-existing non-conforming and does not meet the minimum frontage. So what Mr. Smith is trying to do is take frontage from the lot on the left and add it to the lot on the right. But the
Still
state's-
making it
So what
Still conforms.
What will the new numbers
No,
be?
but
The new number will be, it was 75 by 200. The new lot will be 85 by 200. The
And-
other one will be conforming with the
conform.
140 and conforming with square footage as well. So
Okay,
it's-
so the other one goes from 150 to 140?
Yeah.
Okay,
And keeps 28,000 square feet, which is more than enough.
But
okay.
the smaller one.
But the smaller one-
Does it meet the,
It's becoming less non-conforming. I have a little bit more frontage and a little bit more square footage, but I'm still
didn't we have a
non-conforming lot.
case on Summers Road where
We
a
did.
property line went through the barn?
Right.
And they tried to reshape it so that one property owner ended up with the barn, and we were told by legal counsel that we could not approve that?
Yes.
Okay, how would this be different?
This is different because as a town, we can be less restrictive with our chapter 48, not, let me rephrase that, our pre-existing non-conforming bylaws. The state's A&R handbook is a backstop to ours. So for argument's sake, if we don't have anything that stipulates what we can or cannot do, but the state does. If I said that correctly. So we have a pre-existing non-conforming section in our bylaw book.
Yeah,
And it basically says you have to have, it's gotta be on a public right of way, you have to have access to sewer and water, and it has to have been in existence prior to 1962. Minimum frontage does not come into play, nor does square footage come into play. So if you have a lot that's, well underneath, but meets the minimum requirements or pre-existing non-conforming, you're allowed to build.
okay. To me, it makes a lot of sense making this less non-conforming.
Agreed.
However, why would town council direct us otherwise in this situation on Summers Road? What was the difference? That's what I'm trying to understand.
And I don't know that there was a difference. I know. the
I mean,
biggest-
he was adamant
I know.
that it shouldn't be done.
From a legal point of view, this is a grandfathered lot. Once you change those lot lines, in essence, you lose that grandfather. From a legal point of view. What I want to propose is what I think is common sense. Because they're trying to make the lot less non-conforming, I don't think they should be punished for that. This lot will still conform. This lot will be closer to conformity. Another footnote to this argument, if this gentleman wanted to purchase all the land behind him, he would not be allowed to do so because they don't have the proper frontage.
Yeah, what if there's 100 acres of
I don't
vacant
agree with
property
that.
behind you, and you still had 75 feet of frontage, but there was 100 acres for sale out back? You can't buy that property and combine it with your property?
You could buy it, you just couldn't combine it with.
But
this
let's say it was,
property. But
let's say it was a
what would be the
land lot.
benefit of it? What would be the benefit of it?
Subdividing.
But say you just wanted the acreage.
So then what you would do is tear down this house and make this a street.
But let's say
Which
the
you-
opportunity
Right, I know.
wasn't.
I'm probably getting ahead of ourselves here.
Right.
And
I mean,
this,
there's-
and this is theoretical because the land behind it belongs to the town anyway.
Right, this is
Yeah,
theoretical.
I'm speaking like on a common sense.
Correct.
I feel like common sense wise, it's saying you're not changing a lot. You're not taking away. You're
You
not.
know what, I follow you.
Yeah.
And
I know there's a
years
legal
ago-
part of it, yeah.
Years ago, I was arguing the same point, and we were told very adamantly not to approve it from the town council.
Again, I understand that, but we as a town can be less restrictive than the state. East Long Meadow-
Why wouldn't you have told us that at the time? Because to us, it made a lot of sense. It made no sense in running a property line through the middle of a building.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And then saying, no, you can't change that property line around that building so that one of the property owner has the full rights to that building. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but again, I'm gonna go back to common sense.
I know that this is the only town. I've submitted a plan like this in every abutting town. I've never had
I
one
got
turned
subdivision
down. Never.
control on it.
And I know that I'm not sure why their legal department would be any different. And I know I've talked to other lawyers, and they say half of them say it should be signed, and half say it shouldn't be signed. It's kind of a
It is what we're looking at now, whether or not to sign an A&R to move the lot line. Nothing to
Yes.
do with grandfather.
Yep, that's
Okay,
what.
with that being said, under the A&R book, page, hold on, let me put my glasses back on, page 51, it states case law in Cronus versus Planning Board of Dracut. Number one, in determining whether to endorse a plan, approval not required, a planning board's judgment is confined to determining whether a plan shows a subdivision. Now, under subdivision law, it's the division of one parcel into two or more lots.
Right.
Reading further in A&R, they're describing a lot as a buildable parcel. And there is other case law where they took one parcel
They subdivided it into 3. 2 of them were non-buildable lots, the third was a buildable lot, and yet they were still able to do it under the A&R because it wasn't a subdivision.
And they had to put the note
So-
on there though, right? Don't you have to put
And-
the note not a
and at
buildable
that
lot until
point,
further action of the
they
planning
put-
board?
Exactly, on
Yeah.
there that was
Which
not
is
a
my other
buildable lot.
option.
But this clearly isn't a subdivision.
And you have existing homes. So.
So
it's
my
not a
thought would
buildable
be,
lot.
as far as an A&R, we need to endorse it because it's not a subdivision.
I want to
Now, with that being said, grandfathering and a legal issue is completely different.
If I may, there are also other legal cases where the court has decided that the only pertinent decision, I don't have a decision in front of me, was in fact frontage. I think this can be argued back and forth.
The frontage happened to be 2 separate buildable lots on a right-of-way. Whether it be a street or a right-of-way, has to have the required frontage and access.
By the state or by the town?
Well, in order to be considered not a subdivision,
Okay.
you need 2 lots with the correct frontage and access. Then it's not a subdivision because it's already on an existing right-of-way.
Okay.
But as far as this goes, you're moving a lot line. It's not a subdivision. It's clearly
An
an A&R.
Right. Yeah, I think.
Now, with saying that, my concern would be, do you lose the pre-existing non-conforming status of it?
I don't think you should.
I would agree with that, but I believe the way our zoning book is written,
And that's why we're going to talk about that tonight.
you would.
I think.
Zoning,
Or
not zoning.
subdivision.
Subdivision, not zoning. Zoning has nothing to do with it.
That's technical and or clerical?
It's not confusing.
Okay, undo chapter 48, pre-existing non-conforming.
No.
Now, all of a sudden, you'd be
No.
changing the lot, you'd be recreating a lot.
No,
So it wouldn't be
you're talking
pre-1962.
zoning. This is subdivision control, not zoning. Zoning has nothing to do with it. Pre-existing non-conforming lots under zoning does not apply to A&R standards.
But that's what I'm saying. The A&R we can do, in my opinion, because I don't believe it's a subdivision. And if it's not a subdivision, according to this case, you have to do an A&R. Again, there may be other cases that I haven't seen. But now jumping the gun to a legal aspect for zoning, do you lose rights as far as a pre-existing non-conforming structure? Because now it's a new lot. The lot wasn't created pre-1962, it was created in 2013.
Right, but it hasn't been, it's been enhanced. So I don't see the need to be, I don't see how somebody should be punished for trying to bring a lot closer to conformity. So what I'm suggesting is we approve the A&R with a stipulation that says whatever grandfather provisions that are afforded this lot now will continue in the future.
For clarity, I would like to go to our legal counsel.
Okay.
And get an opinion on him, not so much on just this property, but going forward.
Okay.
Using that example that I gave you earlier. Because if we follow his direction on that property, it's gonna contradict what we're doing on this property.
I'd also like to make the point here. I have notes here on from a presentation called An Overview of Subdivision Control Law, which cites Arrigo versus Planning Board of Franklin, where the landowners wished to create a building lot which did not meet the minimum lot frontage required by the zoning bylaw. They petitioned the ZBA for variance. And the ZBA granted a dimensional variance for the lot that had the deficient frontage. Upon obtaining the variance, they then submitted the A&R to the planning board. I'm wondering if that's a route that would be appropriate.
Possibly.
Well, I think we can approve the A&R, but from a legal point of view, we cannot guarantee the grandfather status. Is that a fair and accurate statement?
But if the ZBA gives a dimensional variance,
Yep.
then that lot now has a variance for the frontage that it's going to be created. Okay? And
The planning board has to grant a special permit under those circumstances, though.
not according to this, it's A&R.
If you look, yeah, an A&R under special
Yeah, but
permit.
now you're getting into 48, section 6 under special permit, and then
See, and does that?
Well, that case law I gave you stated that.
George, does that just refer to a building lot?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, what
This
about-
refers to MGL Chapter 4181R, which authorizes the planning board to waive the minimum frontage requirement of the subdivision control law.
But for a building lot, right?
I don't have 81R in front of me, but yeah,
Oh, okay.
for a lot.
Okay.
for a lot, this is already existing.
Right.
I mean, a building lot is any lot. There's nothing to stop the owner of this lot at some point in the future from tearing that house down and proposing to put another house up.
Correct.
So, okay, so it's not a building lot. All lots are building lots, unless they don't meet requirements.
You know what,
Jason
I
can
know
tell
this
there.
is a sticky issue, and honestly, to me, it makes a lot of sense on what you're presenting. And years ago, I was for it, and like I said, I was arguing the same case, but our legal counsel advised us not to.
Right, just for
And I would prefer to go back to legal counsel to get some clarity on why this wouldn't be the same as what we didn't approve years ago.
All right, for our discussion too, I've submitted plans to this board and have been approved with bigger deficiencies than this. 3 recollections that I come up with. Secondly, if we do approve this, what does this lot become? It's not conforming, it's not pre-existing non-conforming. What does it become?
And that's another question, I think, for our attorney.
Yeah, because now, in essence, we have no legal description for this because the grandfather's gone away, and yet it still does not conform.
It would be a non-conforming lot. It wouldn't be a pre-existing, it
Correct,
would
it'd be
be
non-conforming
simply a
lot.
non-conforming
And we
lot.
have no language that addresses that in our bylaws.
So what does that mean to us? I'm not sure how we would act on that.
And that's why we need to discuss this. That's
Yeah.
why I've scheduled discussion for later, because
Okay.
there is some ambiguity to the interpretation, and to me, this is a common sense no-brainer.
Agreed.
And yet, there are legal issues that have to be addressed.
Which is why it was submitted, just
Right,
for the
discussion
conversation
tonight.
purposes
Yeah.
alone.
So,
Yeah.
I'd be willing to
I
endorse.
apologize for delaying you.
No,
but-
no, no, no,
No,
I
I
knew
was-
that this was
okay.
happening. I submitted the plan so we could have this conversation.
Okay.
All right, so we could approve the A&R, however, the status, legal status of the lot, I don't think we can stipulate right now,
Yeah.
whether it be conforming, non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming, and what grandfather stipulations go with it or do not go with it.
Yeah.
So I think my advice would be to hold off and wait till we get further.
Yeah,
But if you
that's-
want us to move forward, we will.
No, I'd rather wait until it's all figured out. I mean, if it's something that would jeopardize the grandfathering of the lot, I'd obviously have to
Okay.
have my client make the final decision on whether or not they
Exactly.
want to go through with that.
Right.
And if not, there are avenues around this where I would just make that 10-foot parcel not a building lot and transfer that one non-building lot to somebody else, and then you'd have a parcel assessed as 2 separate parcels and more paperwork on the other end. But I think that there's a common sense argument here that I guess maybe could be
Agreed.
seen by
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
law,
I hope we could find it.
by the lawyers, and
Makes a lot of
maybe
sense
make a
to
few
me.
changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe also too, I spoke with Donnie Smith, Larry Lane has some litigation too that would probably help us.
Yeah, there's a lot of case law out there fighting both sides of this argument. There
Yeah.
are cases that have passed,
Yeah,
but
again, that being said, I know there's case law both for and against. I know East Long Meadow is unique in its district overlays, when I say that residential over commercial over industrial. That being said, we have a set of our own pre-existing non-conforming bylaws. I think those need to be enhanced and or tweaked to A, protect the town, and B, protect people that want to do this.
Yeah.
Again, what we've learned over the last year or so is that pre-existing non-conforming is not a detriment, in fact, it's a luxury. In my other last, I'll leave with this, in 1962, when this was allowed in 1962, a lot of the provisions that were afforded to these people in 1962 would still be afforded to them today. So in 1962, if they wanted to add 10 feet to that lot, they would be allowed to do so without any implication as far as damaging their grandfather's status. Again, I'm going back to the common sense argument. While I understand Jim Donahue's going to come at it from a legal point of view, I wanted to discuss amongst the board members to make it so it works for our town, because our town is not Haverhill, our town is not, Uxbridge, our town is not something else, our town is ours.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
And it's unique in its own way, and I want to make sure our bylaws reflect that, but I want to make sure we protect everybody
Certainly.
and the town itself.
And we have to recognize that there are many pre-existing non-conforming lots in town, and we have to be consistent
Correct.
in our approach to all of them. So what we do here will set a precedent for other lots, and we need to not lose sight of that.
And with land becoming scarcer and scarcer, people are electing to stay in their homes and add on.
And it seems like adding land to a non-conforming lot would just make sense, yeah.
And that's what we're gonna discuss that further, but I wanted to bring that forward tonight, so at least to start the discussion.
Yeah, certainly.
All right, so I think at this time we're gonna hold off?
Yeah, that's
All right.
perfect, yeah.
Thank you for your
All right,
patience.
thanks,
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Have they actually submitted the request? Is the clock running?
I've already gotten the
I wrote a
extension.
letter
Okay.
waiving.
Okay.
All taken care of.
Fine.
All right, so in essence, we're gonna give these back to him for now? Or
No,
we
I'll
can
keep
hang
it.
on to them? You're right with that?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
If I'm gonna talk to Jim, if you want me to talk to Jim, or
I
do you
do.
want him to
Okay.
come in and talk? Because I think one of the issues is to find out from him if you can change the town's rules and regs for subdivision control to allow more leniency, like the town did in the zoning bylaws, to allow more leniency from the state requirement. That was chapter 40A. This is chapter 41. And if the same result can happen by changing your own rules and regs to allow for more leniency,
Right.
then you would be able to make that determination.
And I do have a letter from Jim Donahue from the case way back, actually when I was on the other side of the table when I argued with you, that does stipulate some of that.
Yeah, okay, good.
Right.
So-
I would prefer to have them in because some answers are gonna just lead to more questions.
Sure.
Agreed.
So it's hard to capture
Do you
everything on
want to
paper.
be here for that night?
I mean, I'd like to hear what he has to say in terms of the legal side of it. I mean,
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I would like to.
Yeah,
All right, I'll let
I
you know
think it
when
would
I
be
can
to
get
your
him in.
advantage.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
yeah.
That'd be great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Michael,
Should
can I
be
have
fun.
your
See ya.
last?
Take care.
Yes. All right, our 7:45 is Catherine Russo, Cupcake Cafe. If she's here.
I'll give you what you need to read.
We have anything to read?
Yes.
Okay. Are we?
Good, how are you?
Good. Actually, I think we're on time too. Pretty close.
To Robin McDonald, dear Miss McDonald, I'm writing to respectfully request a determination by the planning board that the change of address of my business is not substantial enough to require a new special permit. My business will remain exactly as it stands, but at a new location, which will be 225 Shaker Road, excuse me, East Long Meadow. Attaching a copy of my interior plan as well as a copy of the parking plan for this location. And we have the interior plan and...
I have it.
25 Shaker Road, which building is that?
The frame corner?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
All right, so why don't you give us a synopsis of what you'd like to do?
Basically, up and move.
Okay.
And land there.
Okay. All right, so as far as the scope of the business, that's not gonna change or anything like that?
Nothing,
So you're just basically moving from one spot to another?
exactly.
Same number of seats?
Yeah, that's
The seating is diminished quite a bit. There I had 20, and here I see maybe 3 or 4.
Okay.
It's half the size.
Okay. And do we, parking plan, is that, not an issue?
There is a parking plan. Do we
You
have...
just redid the parking,
That's fine.
Yeah.
and there should be a note inside from Sean. It was rolled up in there. On the back of it,
Sean Kelly?
yep. From
The sketch?
DPW.
No, here it is, here it is.
Oh, we found it.
Here,
He went in,
here it is.
Hold on.
Robin, pursuant to your request to check out the work taking place at 225 Shaker Road, can offer you the following. Before actually going to the site, I met with next door property owner at Family Bike. I questioned him as to his opinion on the site, work being done. Said he had no problems with what was being done. Did comment that the size of the parking lot may have been increased slightly, and he wasn't sure if any fill was brought in. Met with Balthazar Construction on site as of working when I inspected the property last week. The owner of the frame shop was not on site, and the downstairs business was closed. They explained that they were hired to redo the parking lot and entrance area due to the bad condition of the existing paving. There was concrete framework set up which connected to the stairs on the southerly side of the building. This framework included handicapped accessibility to the old parking lot. Note, I have not seen the finished work. The concrete truck was pulling into the property as I left. Balthazar explained to me that the original paving was so bad, they decided to mill in place the existing lot. With the product that was now on the surface from the milling, they used that to assist in leveling the lot. He also explained that they did bring in minor amounts of fill to use in shaping the contours. They were also bringing in crusher dust to use as a base to the paving. It appears that the lot may have been increased compared to 2005 GIS photos. But that might not be large as the forest was growing into the existing lot. Balthazar did comment that they added a small amount of area to the southwest corner in order to accommodate the dumpsters for the businesses. And the drainage will be sheet flow, the same as was on the old lot. It appears that they have not changed the drainage patterns and that no problems will be expected. All disturbed areas off of the lot were loomed, seeded, and straw mulched. All in all, it appears to me the project has been well run and in a good workmanlike manner. Sean Kelly.
All right, now you want to...
Yeah, he added, the owner of the property added 2, Sean just checked it out for me this afternoon. There's 7 here instead of 6.
Okay.
There's 6 here instead of 5.
All right, so there's more.
Right, there's
But
a sidewalk
yeah,
that's
okay.
handicapped accessible. The handicapped accessibility is right here.
Right.
And they also have a fenced-in dumpster in the back.
So you're going to be on the bottom floor?
Top floor.
You're going to be on the top floor, okay.
And the access will be from the street, more or less? You know, from the front of the building?
My access is
Yeah,
from the front. Mhm.
okay. So people would have to park down here, walk up the hill?
Correct.
Okay, good.
Anybody else have anything else to add?
Under special permit, I mean, isn't one of the reasons we do it for any neighbors or anything to come in, talk about what's going on, know what's going on? I mean, you're taking a building with one business and now you're making it 2 businesses in the same building.
For argument's sake, square foot wise, what are you taking up in the new building?
900 square feet.
And what was there previously? Or do you know?
He was upstairs previously.
Who's?
The frame corner.
Okay.
The gentleman was up there and he's now relocated downstairs.
Okay.
Into the lower level.
Okay. And apparently there's some over 3,000 square feet of building.
Mhm.
Do you know if that's the first level and the second level?
It must be because
Okay.
yeah.
And if you're taking, so you're not occupying the whole first level?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. It's not it's a very odd shaped building. It's a 900 square foot ranch in front,
Yeah.
and then it jets out in the back. So the rest of the square footage is in the
Okay.
back. It's a cement add-on. So I'm assuming
Well,
that's
when you
what
say 900, I suspect that the foundation is no bigger, you know, the lower level. So if you hit 900 and 900, you got 1,800 square feet.
No, it is bigger.
It is bigger.
Okay.
It goes back like this.
Okay.
So in other words, the top is here and the bottom is here.
Okay.
That's interesting.
So is the entire lower level being occupied by the frame corner?
Yes.
Okay. I was just wondering if there was going to be a third or fourth tenant, that's all.
No,
Okay.
there would be no
Okay.
way.
Okay, do you have the same amount of workers that you're going to?
I don't have, it's just myself.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
You know, my opinion is that we may not need a new special permit, but we certainly need to amend the existing special permit to address the address change and the seating change and all that kind of thing.
And that'll require a public hearing.
Yeah, but it would be an amendment.
Right.
See, I'm concerned, is the special permit per the location or the property owner? Or both?
I think both.
Property owner? I mean, no, it goes with the person. It goes with
Okay, so like if a restaurant upped and moved,
it's null and void.
so why would this be any different?
I think Ralph's right.
Pardon?
I think Ralph is right.
Okay, you're saying the same thing?
I'm saying the same thing. A different location, It's gonna require a special permit.
Honestly, I don't see any I can't envision a lot of objections.
I
from
can't
the neighbors.
envision
I can't either, we gotta
objections.
afford everybody the same fairness.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I'm just concerned that if we set a precedent where we let a special permit relocate by just amending an existing, that's gonna have bigger ramifications than just this one use.
But we proposed that already for the masseuse on Shaker Road, where the produce guy was gonna be. We suggested that, yeah, we suggest, she has a special permit, and we suggested that we could amend the special permit to allow her to move to a different location on Shaker Road. Remember? We talked about that. This is where the produce guy wants to be.
Right, I know we talked about it, I know we didn't move forward with it though.
Yeah.
Well, we never got a request.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about circumventing the rules.
It's a simple application.
It is, I agree.
And I hate to put you through that trouble, but.
I do too. But if we open up that can of worms, it's gonna be tough to close.
Well, if we need a hearing for an amendment, we need a hearing for special permit. There's really
Correct.
no difference.
No difference, right. For me personally, I think a special permit, a new special permit application is required.
Right, so I think in essence, we have to rescind the first special permit for where you are now.
Okay.
Not until she moves.
Right, well, I'm saying we'll do both at the same time. Rescind one and entertain the fact of a new special permit for the new location.
Yeah.
Do a public hearing, that way if the neighbors have any concerns, afford the same fairness to them we've afforded everybody else.
Well, I don't know we need to do it at the same time, because she may stay open at the current location.
Correct.
Until she modifies.
No, she's gone.
Oh, you're closed,
Yeah,
okay.
she's gone.
Fine.
I think one can run concurrent with the other one
Yeah.
for our argument's sake,
Yeah.
but if you're already closed at one spot, but unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to go through the proper channels to open up a new special permit for the new location.
Okay.
'Cause that is what we do with everybody else.
I'll go with that.
All right, so I think at this time, we're not gonna do anything. Right, we're just gonna move
We won't
forward and
take any action.
we won't take any action.
Okay.
That make
Okay.
sense?
You need to come in and get the application,
Okay.
and we'll put it in the newspaper.
Okay.
All right. All right, next up we have Arbor Kids signage. Come on down. Do we have anything to read? Thank you.
Arbor Kids at East Long Meadow. Carol Verratti and Ernie Grellian, 126 Industrial Drive in Benton. Proposed area of the signs is 99.7 square feet. They're both double and single-sided on the building, double-sided on exit and entrance. They're freestanding, yes, and attached to the building, yes. The freestanding sign is 4 feet above ground level. There's no projection. It does not project over a pedestrian or vehicular way. Distance to the top of the sign above the vertical wall is 18 feet, non-illuminated and permanent. There are 0 existing signs. The proposed and existing signs are 5. Total square footage, 99.7 square feet. And the applicant is Shad Hanrahan. And estimated cost of the sign is $8,000. And we have some pictures.
That's all along. All right, anything you would like to add to that, other than what's been
No,
described?
that's basically it. Just go moving last step here. Moving along.
All right, they meet all our requirements as far as sign, square footage, all that stuff? All right.
Are all these internally illuminated?
No, they're, if anything, it may be, I'm not sure where the lights are going to be on the building, but again, they're just, our operations are from 6:30 to 5:30, so.
Okay. And they're only going to be lit during operating hours?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think any of them are actually illuminated, so. If
Okay.
anything, it might be just from the building light or the sidewalk lights or whatever.
Yeah,
Two more.
that's good.
These ones here will be the double-sided ones. The exits and the entrance.
Yeah.
These will be on the setback, 10 feet. And then these will be above the side of the building.
Yeah.
This is the Arbor Camp entrance, and then the Arbor's Dance Studio, turf fields and courts, and then this is the larger sign that will be located in the corner upright of the building.
So the sign permits for all the signs in relationship to this business, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
I'm just not sure if the directional signs have the name on it.
And then everybody else on industrials shouldn't either then.
Yeah, they all do.
Yeah, he's right.
That's
They
where
all
I
do.
got that idea from, so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unfortunately.
Well, usually everybody puts their signs up and then comes before us.
Well, that's how it's usually, right?
Yeah.
Beg for forgiveness after you put them up.
Oh, yes.
But we got that idea from everybody else.
'Cause I know you made
I like the
take-
color of
you
the
made
signs.
bank
It
Thank
looks
you.
put your
sharp.
name on
Thank
them.
you.
Did we?
Yeah, Berkshire Bank had to come off.
Does it change for different zones?
That's what I'm,
'Cause
Yeah, we
they're-
did it, we had them removed here.
Yeah.
We had them removed at the former TD Bank.
right.
Yeah, I just want to make, 'cause I think,
And-
correct me if I'm, you're in industrial zone?
Yes, sir.
And
But it-
these are other commercial zones.
I agree.
Okay.
You go to, McKinsey's Vault, they have their names on their directional signs
And where's that?
in the industrial park.
Okay.
In the Guardian Industrial Park.
Right,
They
regarding
have what?
industrial.
Pardon?
They have what?
Their directional signs has their name on it, I believe. McKinsey Vault.
Yeah,
right around the
they
corner
do,
from here.
Plastipac does.
How about McGill Hose?
Right, they have the one.
A couple of those got
Tiger
variances.
Press.
They're not just entrance signs though, are they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're directional signs, the little 2x3 footer.
All right, with a name and an arrow.
It says only to identify the primary use of the building.
Say that?
Only to identify, otherwise relate to the primary use of the building or tenants in such a building and no other purpose.
Well, the primary use of the building would include, I think, the directional signs.
That's
Well,
what we were
that's what I
asking.
mean, the
yeah.
directional, yeah, absolutely, but
Oh, no,
I think it was sharp.
I just thought of the banks.
Well, you know what, do we prohibit freestanding signs over here
Where?
on North Main Street? Because of the zoning, yeah. Because the only grandfathered one is the Bermudos.
Well,
the
they have
bank
to
and
meet the zoning
Bermudos.
requirements, you know, the
Right.
setback.
Yeah.
But these are gonna meet the setback.
Okay.
I just
I
wanted to
don't
bring
see
to
it.
attention. I don't think it
I
is.
don't
but-
really have an issue with this, especially.
I mean, in the industrial park,
Right.
you're driving down there,
No.
there's
hard to
lots
see
of
what's what.
driveways. How do you know which driveway to turn into
Mhm.
if you don't have a sign?
Right.
I think that may be
I mean,
something.
our sign's on the building, but it sets back, and we're trying to prevent the flow of traffic
Yeah,
from backing up.
and there are driveways next to each other there. Which one's for this business, which one's for that business?
Maybe a question for our bylaw review committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's, I don't see any issues.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other discussion they want to add? All
I
right.
like the signs.
I make a
Yeah,
motion
I
to
think
approve
they're
the
great.
signage, subject to the approval of the building inspector.
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great,
Aye.
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Sandro seconded that motion.
Aye. Did he?
Yeah, he said so moved.
So am I just waiting for the building inspector?
Yes.
Or am I outside?
Yeah,
you're
just
not
present
all
what
set.
you're gonna do to him, and he'll,
Okay.
because
Yeah, you need to pay for your your sign permits too.
Yeah, that's gonna be down to Sage, so.
Okay,
Or
yeah,
GCs.
well, he'll get the notification tomorrow probably.
Okay.
Right, and then I'll send one of these down to him so he'll have everything.
Great, thank you, guys.
Flying over there though. Have you been
Oh,
by
yeah,
it?
it looks awesome.
Have you been by it?
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't.
Oh, it's gonna be unbelievable.
When are you guys, when do you think you'll be
August
done?
27th.
Awesome.
Right from
Good, I'll be here.
Whoa,
Yeah,
what
we're,
a-
God bless
we're
you.
cruising.
Yes.
We got framing already started, so
Yeah.
framing and wiring and flooring, and we're almost
Oh,
there.
yeah. Dirt removal,
Regarding,
the site,
they're sifting it, we're laying a field out for irrigation, and
so you're not removing it,
I think we're utilizing what we have.
okay?
Why do you ask?
Because you need a special permit to remove dirt.
Right, they have the sifter there, they've been
Okay.
sifting everything, and
Does
Okay.
anybody ever do
using what
that?
we
Just
have.
double
Yeah.
check it.
All right. All right. And finally, I'm just gonna pick up where we
Thank you,
left
Chad.
off.
Thanks, Rob.
With
Take
our
care.
pre-existing non-conforming discussion. What was presented tonight is an example of how things need to be fixed and or at least discussed. Another subject that I have is when somebody has several pre-existing non-conforming lots, they cannot be combined. So along that principle, if you have three, let's say 35-foot lots, you're entitled to build on each one of those lots, but you are not allowed to combine them because you take away the grandfather clause. So I guess my question to you would be, what is more detrimental to the neighborhood or appealing to the town and or neighbor? Is it 3 houses that are 8 feet wide or 1 house that blends in with the neighborhood?
Now, I thought we had some lots in town that predated the zoning bylaw.
We do.
That were like 35 feet wide.
Yep.
Or they were set up in the area off of Vineland.
Yes.
Way back there.
Right.
Yeah. And I thought we were directed by our town attorney that lots like that could be combined.
Actually, it was the opposite.
Was it?
Yeah, because
okay,
once
it's been some
You're
time.
creating, you would still be creating a non-conforming lot.
Right. But
It's
what
the
would you-
same scenario as this.
But what would you do with those lots? Those would have to remain undeveloped for forever and ever and ever.
But for discussion here tonight, I've spoken with Dan with this a little bit. In Residence C, you still have to adhere to the sideline setbacks, front and rear yard setbacks, which in Residence C is 12 and 12 on the side.
Yeah.
To do a legal building, I think it's either 8 or 8.6 wide. Right? You have to have a bathroom, a kitchen, and a bedroom to make a legal building. In essence, a mobile home type style ergo. As long as it's on a public right of way, has access to sewer and water, and pre-existed prior to 1962. So if I have a 35-foot lot for discussion tonight, I can build a legal dwelling. But I cannot take the 35-foot lot that's next door to me and combine those two.
Under the A&R.
Under the A, right. So what I would like to do is say, look, if you're allowed to build on the primary lot, you should be allowed to add square footage to the primary lot. However, if the building lot is not buildable to begin with, then you're not allowed to add footage to it. You can't take something that is not buildable and add land to it to make it buildable.
Because
Buildable
people would just
non-conforming.
because
Yeah,
people
correct.
would just be adding a foot.
Right, and there was something that came, I think it was before the Board of Appeals, where there was 3 separately deeded parcels, and the gentleman wanted to combine them and make one lot. But because they were 3 individual parcels, they did not have what was required to build a residence. And the legal opinion I got from Jim Donahue was, if they were entitled to build on each and every one of those lots, they could build on each and every one of those lots, if they could meet the sideline requirements. And again, based on the research I've done, I've come up with 12 and 12, 24 plus 8, puts us, 32, which is tight. So I'm saying 35. This is one of the things I think we need to look at, because a lot of these pre-existing non-conforming lots were created on a 30-foot increment footprint and a 35-foot imprint. And when I talk about this, most of it is the north end of town. Some of the maps I've looked at go back to 1912, and a lot of it's 30, 30, 30, 30, 30. And over the years, these lots have been combined. They've been changed until 1962 when our bylaw was written to, protect the town going forward, and also protect the people that had these lots. And some of the research I've done is these lots were created more often than not by family members to create lots for their kids. So here it is, the year 2013, and land has become scarcer and scarcer, and people are looking for every avenue they can to build upon. So what I want to do is, again, take some ambiguity out of the interpretation. So we send less people to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and when people come before us for either a 48 Section 6 finding, or they come before Dan Hellier for a building permit, if we can lay out some outlines or guidelines that protect the town, protect these people, and take some guesswork out of the interpretation of our bylaws. Tonight was a perfect example. A gentleman wanted to add 10 feet to his pre-existing non-conforming law, and yet we had to tell him no because of illegal issues arising from our A&R handbook and or the state's bylaws, and or legal cases arguing both for and against. My original argument was East Long Meadow is a unique town. In 1962, you would have been allowed to do that. I don't think people should be punished in the year 2013 because other towns and or state bylaws have changed or not kept up with what we've done in town. So that's what I want to address, and I've talked to Robin about it. There's some language I'd like to put forth that protects these people and allows these people to enhance their property without creating more detriment to the town, without inflicting financial and or hardship to these people that want to build these houses.
One of the issues that you haven't mentioned yet is that you won't make any non-conforming lot smaller.
Right, so for argument's sake, if Mr. Smith, he brought that plan before us tonight, and he wanted to add 10 feet to that other parcel,
if he was going the opposite way.
Yeah, so he brought the conforming parcel down to 140.
Right. Which meets the requirements
Correct.
in that zone.
What I'm proposing is, yes, you can do that, you can't go below the 140.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, you cannot go backwards.
No.
Absolutely not. No way, no how.
That's already.
Our bylaws wouldn't
What's
allow
that?
us to do that.
That's already in the bylaw.
It is, right, and but
Yeah.
it is and it isn't.
Yeah, no, and you're going into the bylaws. Don't pay any attention to the bylaws. This is subdivision control. And one thing that you also have to, and I mentioned it to you this afternoon, that you're gonna have to prepare language for.
Correct.
Is the, all I can think of is virus. That's not the right word. Where the infection
right.
law. Whereas if you take, and Jim Donahue has mentioned this too before, you take a lot, even though you're changing it, the property that came before you tonight, it was still going to be a legal lot, frontage and everything, and you create a non-conforming lot, it poisons the conforming lot and makes that lot also non-buildable.
I disagree with that completely.
No, I know, but
Yeah, that doesn't-
I'm
that's-
just saying you're gonna have to have language, because I gave you that
I know,
case
I know.
law that,
And that's
that
one-
states that, so you just need to address all these issues
So
when you're
if
making your
improving the law,
changes.
It makes it unbuildable?
It infects it, it's called the infectious something or
I
other
would
law.
like to know what percentage of these 35-foot lots or smaller lots are actually, although they've been conveyed as separate parcels, as separate deeds, are actually owned by the adjacent property owner. Because my impression is that in a lot of cases, what we're seeing is somebody who owns 2 lots, let's say, or owns 4 lots.
Right.
He's got a house on one.
Yep.
And he's got 3 other lots, which, if put together, become non-conforming.
Correct.
In that case, we're providing infill and creating greater density in a neighborhood, even though that's really been treated as, it's been separate lots, but it's been treated as a single property for, because we saw this off Vineland Avenue that we dealt with, when I was on conservation, we dealt with this one, where they came in claiming that they had the subdivision plan from 1912, made all these 35-foot lots.
Right.
Well, in that case, they had actually transferred the parcels as single parcels, not as 35-foot parcels, but as a bulk parcel, if you will.
Right.
It's a single deed for that piece of property. That subdivision never was actually created. Those individual lots were never registered. Okay.
That does create a legal issue too, and I've gone back and forth with several attorneys. A lot of times on one deed, you can have 2 property descriptions. And this came up right over by Dearborn Street.
Yes.
It was owned by one person, but it was 2 separate deeds. It was taxed separately. That's another thing that stipulates our bylaws. It has to be taxed separately. So, and I'm not a lawyer, but there are instances where one deed will cover individual pieces. And that's something we'll have to clarify in our language. And going back to what George was saying about density, I would rather see one house on 3 combined pre-existing non-conforming lots than I would 3 small houses that don't fit anyhow, any way.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
And that's, you know,
Yeah.
that's what I want to put forth language that, again, protects the town, but gives people a little bit of latitude. So if I have a lot that's not big enough and I want to put an addition on, I just go to my next door neighbor and say, hey, can I buy 10 feet because I want to put a master bedroom on? They come before us and we can tell them, yes, we can approve the A&R, but now they lose their grandfather clause. And that goes back to the legal limbo, if you will. What does that lot become? Which is not conforming, and what status goes with it now? Because now we're in no man's land. It's something we haven't legally have a definition for in
And then-
our town.
And then what do you do with those lots, those non-buildable lots that were recently approved in A&Rs? You know, over the years, we'll get a request now and then where 25,000 square feet is required,
right.
But somebody breaks off a piece, keeping this lot in full compliance with square footage, but breaks off a little chunk, and this one becomes now, say, 15 or 10,000 square feet.
That's one of the ideas I had, and I discussed with Robin, is in this day and age, everything gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
Yeah.
And part of the A&R handbook and or legal description and attorney's opinions is, as we as a planning board can put what we've come up with on the plan, basically not buildable, for what reasons.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes before us like an A&R tonight, my suggestion would be we approve it with the stipulation that it is pre-existing non-conforming, and it will continue to be that, and all the provisions afforded previously will be afforded afterwards.
Sure.
That, in essence, would go to the registry of deeds. So when somebody, long after we're gone, building inspector, Robin, somebody opens up that plan and says, okay, this is what the planning board did, this is why they did it, and this is, the understanding that goes along with it.
Yeah.
So if that particular person tonight wants to go for an addition in 10 years, they can basically say, this is what the planning board decided, this is what's been recorded at the registry of deeds. We need to put everything that we determine on that plan before we sign it.
Sure.
So the assessor has it, so when Dan Hellier or whomever pulls it up on the GIS, there'll be a little blurb, what have you. All the information that we started with will continue and/or added language will follow with it after the decision is made, by us. And there's still 48 Section 6. There's still going to be some issues that we may or may not encompass with our new language. There's always going to be gray areas. I'm just trying to take some of the gray areas out of it to make it simplified, because I know there's always questions, but on Dan's part, there's questions on our part. There was a question here tonight that none of us could really answer legally. And we as planning board members and or attorneys struggle with the language. Your typical homeowner doesn't have a clue.
Right. Agreed.
So I think we're trying to educate ourselves, building inspector, attorneys, and again,
Make it
the
easy
uniqueness
for
of our
everybody.
town.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to put
Sure.
forth.
Okay.
My only feeling is that we're getting into an area where we really need some strong legal advice.
Yep.
I don't feel qualified to write something like that because I think I'm not that familiar with all of the laws that impact that. And I think we need to be really careful because we know as soon as we write something, somebody's going to find a way to go around it or to use it for a way it was not intended for.
Right, and honestly,
we're
I
gonna
think that's
be
what's happening now.
really
People are
careful.
finding ways around it, and I
Yeah.
want to stop some of that.
And historically, whatever we've done, we've run it by our counsel to advise us if we need to reword it or whatever.
I'd like to
So-
know if there are any other municipalities in the state that have already done this that we can use as a guideline so that we're not reinventing the wheel.
Well, a lot of municipalities, based on where they are, have their own set of pre-existing non-conforming bylaws and or guidelines. They're probably all similar in some scope, but there's always minute differentiations, and that's in East Long Meadow, again, with our overlap of industrial, commercial, residential. We are unique in that aspect, and I guess I'm going to go back to my original statement. What was allowed in 1962 should still be allowed, and that's, from another attorney's advice. I mean, you could put 10 attorneys in this room.
Yeah.
5 will tell you can do it, and 5 will tell you that you can't,
Exactly.
and 5 will tell you, present with the arguments, and vice versa. We as a municipality can be less restrictive than what the state allows. So for argument's sake, 48 Section 6 says you can have pre-existing non-conforming lots, they cannot be held in common ownership.
Right.
East Long Meadow does not recognize that part of 48 Section 6. Springfield does to a degree. Since Springfield, you can have 3 in a row, but you can't have 4 in a row. So they've taken the state's bylaw and tweaked it to fit them. Because in Springfield, you have a lot of 50 by 100 lots. They changed their guidelines to 75, so you cannot have any more than 3. And then that disrupts the series of 50 by 100 lots to keep the density simpler rather than over-densified.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to prevent with us by taking some of the gray out. And again, I want to protect the town, but I also want to protect the citizens too. And I think some of the language needs to be
absolutely
more understandable
Yeah.
for everybody. And yes, I think Jim Donohue's going to weigh in on it. I don't know if I'll necessarily agree with everything he says, but I certainly do welcome his input.
Yep.
All right. So I think with that, I'm going to work on some language with Robin, and then I think once we have some of that language on paper, we'll bring it back before the board with Jim Donahue, and then we'll discuss it further.
Sure.
I'm just curious, how many lots do we think that we're talking about that fit under this criteria? I mean, are we looking at 100 lots? Are we looking at 15? Are we looking at 1,000?
I think we're looking at enough that we need to look at the language. I mean, I've sat on the other side of the table, and I've argued this point from not a planning board point of view, and we had discussions when I bought the church property.
Yeah.
I've subdivided land for conversation's sake, what was done tonight, I've done things like that before, with no malice to the town and no negative impacts. So what was done is in the past, without, should be allowed in the future. Again, what was done in 62 should be allowed today. These people should not be punished. So if I buy a house, my attorney's not going to tell me, look, East Long Meadow says your pre-existing non-conforming, you can't do this and this. So when your homeowner comes in, who spent, maybe not a lot of money in a house, but now wants to add on, and they're told no, they're going to be extremely upset. Because nobody's going to tell them that when they buy the house. No attorney's going to say, look, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't add land to it. So again, I want to try to simplify the language so it makes so it works for everybody.
I just don't want to lose the fact that things were changed in 1962 for a reason.
Correct.
Okay? And there are things that people were allowed to do in 1962 that they shouldn't be allowed to do today. And
attorney would disagree with you.
I think Michael's just
that's
speaking.
why we wrote the law.
I think
So we
Michael's
changed
just
things.
speaking in regards to non-conforming pre-existing lots,
Right, I'm not,
residential
yeah,
lots.
I'm not, I don't want to,
That's not what you said, so.
oh, maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't say it quite correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to move very cautiously here. I agree we need to look at it. I'd like to see us move very cautiously because there's a lot of density happening in this town in places. A lot of people are waking up and finding out that what they thought was one lot is now three.
Correct.
And there's one right at the end of my street where it looked like one lot with a house and a bit of woods next to it, and now it's two houses.
Right.
And the guy who lived next to them was extremely upset about that, particularly when they dropped the trees on his fence. But aside from
that's a
that,
separate issue.
but seriously, some of the infill is increasing density in places where we're already pretty dense.
Right, at the same token, we can't take away people's rights. So anyways, I think we know where we want to go.
Yep.
So if there's anybody else have anything else to add to that?
Not to
We've
that.
covered everything?
No.
All right. Can I have-
Before we adjourn,
Yes.
I just have one quick question for the board. Under fences or walls, the bylaw we're bringing forwards, A states all boundary fences and/or walls shall require a building permit from the building commissioner. I had someone approach me this week, very upset, that said, what do you mean, I put a wall in the front of my yard now, I need a building permit? Were we trying to say boundary fences and boundary walls? Or is it boundary fence and any wall needs a building permit?
It was intended to mean boundary fences and walls. Boundary fences and boundary walls.
All encompassing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the intent.
I thought that's what our intent was.
Yeah, I
Like
know
I
it's-
said, I know when I read it, I said to him, no, if it's a boundary, wall, that's what we're talking about. He's like, but that's not the way I read it.
Yeah, I think
It says all boundary fences.
And
in
or
item A.
walls.
And or walls. Well, right, boundary walls. You don't repeat
Okay,
that same
well,
word
that's,
over
and that's
and
what
over
I said,
again.
and I said, I believe this is what we
Yeah.
meant, but I just wanted clarification.
The and or is for fences and walls. Boundaries is always existent.
Perfect.
And again, I think
So
the
I told
intent
him
is to
correctly.
Stop conflict of
Yeah.
boundary disputes.
Yeah,
All right.
if you were to put up like a decorative fence, like along your front walk, where it only extends for the length of the walk or at the entrance of the driveways, I don't think that would be considered a boundary fence or wall.
Right.
Okay.
Two other,
Oh, I'm sorry.
two other things. What are we going to do about the taping for town meeting? Who's going to do it?
That was gonna be one of my
Okay,
questions.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right, I'm glad.
I guess that would fall on my shoulders. Is that a safe assumption?
No.
All right, I would recommend myself for that unless anybody wants to jump in and take that for me.
Thank you.
That's Thursday night.
Yeah.
Which Thursday night?
This
Day
Thursday.
after tomorrow.
I cannot do Thursday night.
Okay.
I cannot.
So,
I will be there because I'm doing the CPC articles.
Would you like to jump in? And
I can do it. if
All
you
right.
like.
Don't mind jumping in for us?
I cannot do Thursday.
Because I can't make it Thursday as well.
If I'm going to do that, then comes the other question. The article on home businesses.
Do we want to table this for more discussion?
We're not gonna meet between now and town meeting.
You just have to report what's
I'm gonna have-
exactly in the warrant.
I'm gonna have Robin post a meeting before town meeting, so if there's any things we
Yeah.
need to discuss last minute, we can.
Okay.
So that was my thought on that, because something always seems to come up at the last
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah,
So if we post a
absolutely.
meeting, then we're covered.
So you'd like me to address that article?
For
have
legal,
to.
yes, for the warrant article, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Only because it's already in the warrant.
Correct,
And
right.
this is a pre,
Mhm.
you know,
One other footnote too, I don't know if anybody saw this, but the state has come down with some guidelines for the marijuana dispensaries as far as numerically and how many you could have in the state.
I haven't seen the latest. What
I
are
think
the
it was
highlights
10, a minimum, or a maximum of 10 in
Massachusetts.
the whole state.
in the whole state?
It was
Thought they were
very,
33.
or maybe 10 per quadrant, if you will, per third of the
It's
state.
33 for the state.
5 per county.
It was restrictive, to say
Yeah,
the least.
it is, yeah,
Okay.
very
Yeah.
restrictive.
Yeah.
So I think that's the language that's being put forth. I just want to make everybody aware of
They
that.
haven't
Okay.
So,
finalized it.
The-
They've also got regulations, health regulations
Okay.
too.
But the draft regulations have been published, and they're available on the state website.
all right, but the guidelines, as far as the guidelines, as far as that, have not been ratified, for lack of a better term.
No, they haven't been finalized, but
Okay.
the draft regs, which are probably going to be pretty close to the final regs,
Okay.
are out. They're
I
on the
sent them
website.
to all of you.
Yeah, I
Okay.
sent them to you.
All right, so in essence, we're still in a holding pattern for
Yeah.
discussion, though. Okay, is there anything
I'm
else?
talking about the health regulations. I
Right,
got
yeah.
those at a meeting,
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
so I sent those to you. If you don't have them, I can resend them.
I have not reviewed the minutes of March 26th.
Okay.
I gave you my comments
Started
today.
enough.
So I
Yeah.
gotta make the changes.
I'll get those changes to you
All right.
shortly.
Just one more quick thing. The zoning review committee is interested in looking at the parking standards for residential elderly.
Okay.
Because the elderly are now
More mobile.
driving later in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, there's 2 people and there's 2 cars.
right.
Yeah.
And given the fact that they're going to be looking at Brownstone Gardens to expand, they wondered if they could look at that bylaw to
And
increase the parking that's allowed.
What's the formula now?
That I don't know.
Okay.
Let me see.
I could say from going up there
One-on-one.
that there's
One-on-one?
very rarely available
Yeah.
parking
Right.
space.
All right, then it's something we need to
So
address.
it needs serious consideration.
Okay. We'll put that on a not too distant future. for
Okay, so I can
discussion.
tell them they can do it?
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Yeah.
Something we need to look at, then by all means, let's look at it. Anything else? Ralph?
So,
I'm sorry.
no, I just want to know what time you want me to schedule the meeting before the special town meeting. 6:15, 6:30? Town meeting's at 7, so,
Make it 6. Make it 6.
yeah, you can meet an hour.
We'll meet
How
on
about
that.
6:30?
Well,
Usually
the
only
last
takes us
time we had a
15
few
minutes.
people, a few minutes late, and, I mean, it started running close.
How about 6:15? We'll split the difference. Anybody have any objections to that?
No.
6:18.
6:18 on the 20th in the cafeteria.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
on the 20th.
Mm-hmm,
Okay,
May 20th.
May 20th, sorry. I've been using
At
April for
the
quite a while.
cafeteria, yeah.
Can we get a room other than the cafeteria? Because
Mm-mm.
they won't open a classroom for us.
I doubt it. That's what they offer us.
That's so awkward, doing it in the cafeteria.
You
'Cause
think?
You got people walking through and talking and, you know.
All right, I'll see, I'm trying to figure out who I can call.
I know the selectmen always get the conference room. Okay, because
Unless
when
we
they
ask
meet
first.
beforehand.
Appropriations usually is in the cafeteria with
Yeah.
us.
Right.
At
Yeah.
a different table.
Yeah.
It's just chaotic in the cafeteria. I mean,
Yeah,
it really
I'll
is.
see if I can do something.
You know what,
And
there's
then-
there's a room, I don't know, but in the back of the small cap, there's a separate,
Closet?
room, it's glassed off.
So if you go into the
No, it's
cafeteria,
probably half the size of this. I mean, it's
so if
big
you
enough
go
for
into the cafeteria, you continue walking?
Continue to the second cap, there's a small cafeteria.
Oh, I
There's two
didn't know that.
cafeterias and the kitchen's in the middle.
Do you go right or left?
Oh,
So you
okay.
walk past the vending machine.
Yeah.
All right,
and
yes.
Turn right and go out toward the back of the building where the dumpsters are.
Okay.
Well, it's past that.
Yeah.
By the back gym. there's a little room, I can't remember what they call it, a fish bowl or something, and it's,
All right, I'll see if we
Yeah,
can.
we just have to make sure, if anybody from the public wants to attend, we have to make them aware that,
Oh, that's right, yeah.
so we can't hide, if you will. We still have to be
No.
available to the public.
All right, let me see.
All right. One last time, is there anybody else?
Nada.
No,
George?
that-
Move
that
we
was
adjourn.
Okay.
So
Second.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.